Hey beautiful souls. Are you ready for a journey from invisible to unstoppable? From the shadows of denial to the blazing light of destiny? Tonight we're diving deep into a world where the moon's pull can't be ignored, where ancient magic thought extinct suddenly awakens, and where sometimes discovering what you are means losing everything you thought you knew. I need you to buckle up because we're about to meet Elena Cross, a woman who spent 23 years running from the truth humming beneath her skin. But here's what I want you to remember as we begin. Sometimes we have to stop hiding to discover the power we were always meant to wield. Are you with me? Then let's step into the rain-soaked streets of Portland on the night that changed everything. Chapter 1. Elena Cross had spent 23 years pretending she didn't feel the pull. Not the romantic kind, though she'd avoided that too. This was something deeper, more primal, a constant hum beneath her skin that intensified every full moon, leaving her restless and aching in ways she couldn't explain to her doctor, her therapist, or the rotating cast of roommates who'd learned to avoid her during those nights. The city helped. All that concrete and steel, the constant noise of traffic and voices, it drowned out whatever was trying to claw its way to the surface. Portland was perfect for disappearing, perfect for pretending you were normal when you definitely weren't. She worked the closing shift at Crimson Pages, a cramped independent bookstore in the Pearl District that smelled like old paper and the owner's endless chamomile tea. It was nearly midnight when she locked up, pulling her jacket tight against the autumn rain that seemed determined to soak through every layer she wore. The streets were emptier than usual. Even the bars seemed subdued tonight, their neon signs reflecting off puddles like drowning stars. That's when she felt it, the weight of being watched. Not the casual glance of a passerby but focused, intense, predatory. Elena's heart kicked against her ribs. She walked faster, boots splashing through puddles, keys threaded between her fingers like claws. The parking garage was only 2 blocks away. She could make it. Elena Cross. The voice came from behind her, and it wasn't a question. She spun around. A man stood beneath the broken streetlight, somehow both illuminated and shadowed. Tall, maybe 6'3", with dark hair that curled slightly at his collar. He wore all black, jeans, jacket, everything. And his eyes were wrong. Too bright, too golden, like they reflected light that wasn't there. "I don't know you," she said, proud that her voice didn't shake. "And I don't have any cash, so I'm not here to rob you." He took a step closer and Elena's entire body tensed. "I'm here to warn you." "Warn me about what?" "About what you are. About what's coming for you." His expression was grim. "You're in danger and you don't even know it." Elena's laugh came out sharp and wrong. "Right. Let me guess, you're some kind of psychic? Fortune teller? Because I've heard this line before and I'm really not." "You feel it, don't you?" he interrupted, taking another step. "Every full moon. The restlessness. The pain. The feeling that something inside you is trying to break free." Her blood went cold. "How do you?" "Because I feel it too. Because we're the same." His eyes flashed brighter. "My name is Dante Blackwood and I'm the alpha of the Cascade Ridge Pack. And whether you believe it or not, Elena Cross, you're one of us." "One of what?" The words caught in her throat. "A werewolf." The word hung in the rain-soaked air between them. Elena wanted to laugh, to run, to do anything but stand there staring at this stranger who'd somehow reached inside her chest and named the thing she'd never dared to voice. "That's not real," she whispered. "That's not. People don't just turn into wolves. That's fairy tales. That's..." Dante's form rippled. One moment he was a man, the next he was something else. Something massive and dark with those same golden eyes. A wolf the size of a small car stood where he'd been, its breath misting in the cold air. Elena stumbled backward, her keys clattering to the wet pavement. "No. No, 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 no." The wolf shifted again, and Dante stood before her once more, perfectly calm, perfectly human. "I know this is difficult to accept, but you need to listen to me. There are others like us in this city, and not all of them follow the pack laws. Some of them hunt alone. Some of them hunt people like you." "People like me," Elena repeated numbly. "Dormant wolves. Ones who never shifted, never learned what they are. You're vulnerable because you don't know how to protect yourself. You don't even know you're being hunted." "Hunted by who?" Dante's jaw tightened. "Rogues. Wolves who left their packs and went feral. They're drawn to dormant wolves because you smell." He paused, choosing his words carefully. "Different. Unclaimed. It drives them mad." Elena's mind was spinning. This couldn't be real. People didn't turn into wolves. She didn't turn into a wolf. She would know. She would remember. "I don't believe you," she said. But even as the words left her mouth, something inside her stirred, That same restless thing that had kept her awake so many nights, pacing her apartment, staring at the moon through her window. "You don't have to believe me," Dante said quietly. "But in 3 days the full moon rises. And if you're not prepared, if you're not protected, the first shift will tear you apart. Literally. Get away from me." Elena bent to grab her keys, not taking her eyes off him. "I don't know what kind of game this is, but—" A howl split the night. Long, eerie, too close. Dante's entire body went rigid. "They're already here." "Who? Rogues?" He grabbed her arm, his grip iron-strong but not painful. "We need to move. Now." "I'm not going anywhere with—" Something crashed into the alley entrance behind them. Elena caught a glimpse of matted fur, red eyes, teeth too large and too sharp. The creature that emerged was wrong. A wolf, yes, but twisted, its movements jerky and unnatural, foam dripping from its jaws. "Don't run," Dante said, his voice dropping to a growl. "Stay behind me." The rogue lunged. Dante shifted in mid-motion, his wolf form slamming into the rogue with bone-crushing force. They rolled across the wet pavement in a snarling mass of fur and fangs. Blood sprayed across the brick wall. Elena's back hit the wall behind her. She couldn't move, couldn't breathe, couldn't process what she was seeing. This wasn't real. This couldn't be real. A second rogue appeared at the alley's entrance. This one ignored Dante entirely, its red eyes fixed on Elena. She felt that pull again, the thing inside her that had been quiet for so long, suddenly screaming to be free. The rogue charged. Elena raised her hands instinctively, and something exploded from her palms. Not fire, not light, but pure force. The rogue flew backward, slamming into a dumpster with a sickening crunch. Her hands were glowing, actually glowing, with a silver light that pulsed in time with her heartbeat. "Impossible," Dante breathed. He'd finished with the first rogue and stood staring at her, his wolf form shimmering back to human. "You're not dormant. You're something else entirely." The second rogue climbed to its feet, snarling. "Elena, run." But she couldn't run. Her legs wouldn't obey. The silver light was spreading up her arms now, and with it came a pain unlike anything she'd ever felt, like her bones were trying to reshape themselves, like her skin was too small for what was underneath. "Fight it," Dante commanded, moving to stand between her and the rogue. "You're not ready. If you shift now, untrained, you'll lose yourself." "What's happening to me?" The words came out as a scream. "You're awakening. But you have to stop. You have to." The rogue struck. Dante caught it mid-leap, but the force drove him backward and they crashed into Elena. She felt teeth graze her shoulder, felt hot blood. The world exploded into silver light. When Elena's vision cleared, she was standing in the center of a crater. Both rogues lay unconscious at the edges, and Dante knelt a few feet away, one hand pressed to his ribs, staring at her with something that looked like awe. "What are you?" he whispered. Elena looked down at her hands. The glow was fading, but she could still feel it humming beneath her skin. Power she'd never known she had, power that terrified her. "I don't know," she said. "I don't know what I am." Dante climbed to his feet slowly. "Then we need to find out. Before they do." His golden eyes met hers. Every wolf in the Pacific Northwest just felt that power surge. And not all of them are going to be friendly about it. In the distance, more howls rose, dozens of them converging on their location. "Come with me," Dante said, extending his hand. "Or stay here and face them alone. Your choice." Elena looked at his hand, at the unconscious rogues, at her own trembling fingers. 3 hours ago, her biggest concern had been whether she could afford to replace her car's failing transmission. Now she was apparently a werewolf, or something worse, being hunted by creatures that shouldn't exist. She took his hand. "Good," he said. "Because we have about 60 seconds before." A woman's voice cut through the night, cold and sharp as broken glass. Well. The Blackwood Alpha, consorting with an unregistered wolf. How delightfully illegal." Elena spun. A woman stood at the alley entrance. No, not a woman. Something that looked human but moved like a predator, dressed in white that seemed to glow against the darkness. Her eyes were ice blue and utterly devoid of warmth. "Celeste," Dante growled. "This doesn't concern the Silver Moon Pack." "Oh, but it does." Celeste's smile was all teeth. "Any unregistered wolf is pack business. Especially one who just announced her presence to every supernatural creature in the state." She looked at Elena with undisguised hunger. "Hello, little wolf. I'm going to enjoy breaking you in." And that's when Elena realized the rogues weren't the real danger. The real danger had just arrived. Chapter 2. Elena had never been good at making quick decisions. She overthought everything, what to order at restaurants, which route to take home, whether to text back or wait. But staring at Celeste's predatory smile, with Dante's hand still outstretched and the sound of approaching howls growing louder, her instincts made the choice for her. She ran. Not toward Dante, not toward Celeste, straight down the alley away from all of them. Her boots pounded against wet pavement as her heart tried to hammer its way out of her chest. Elena, no. Dante's shout echoed behind her, but she didn't stop. Couldn't stop. Everything in her body screamed that she needed to get away, to find somewhere safe, somewhere she could think. A figure dropped from the fire escape above, landing directly in her path. Elena skidded to a halt, nearly falling. The man who blocked her way was younger than Dante, maybe mid-20s, with copper-red hair and a grin that didn't match the dangerous energy radiating from him. "Going somewhere, newbie?" he asked, tilting his head. His eyes flashed amber in the darkness. "That was quite the light show you put on. Very dramatic. Very noticeable." "Please," Elena gasped, backing up a step. "I don't know what's happening. I don't know what I did." "What you did," came Celeste's voice from behind her, "was break about a dozen supernatural laws in the span of 30 seconds. Unregistered wolves are required to present themselves to their regional pack within 24 hours of first shift. You've been in Portland for what, 3 years? And you never once thought to mention your little problem." Elena whirled around. Celeste had moved impossibly fast and now stood only a few feet away, flanked by 2 massive wolves. Actual wolves, not the twisted rogues from before. These were sleek and silver white, their eyes reflecting the same ice blue as their alphas. "I didn't know," Elena said, hating how her voice shook. "I swear I didn't know that this was." "Ignorance isn't an excuse." Celeste's smile had vanished, replaced by something cold and calculating. "You're coming with me. The Silver Moon Pack will determine your fate through proper channels." "She's coming with me," Dante said suddenly between them. Elena hadn't even seen him move. She triggered her awakening on Cascade Ridge Pack territory. "That makes her mine to protect." "Yours?" Celeste's laugh was sharp as glass. "Since when do you claim strays, Blackwood? Your pack is already weak enough without adding unstable elements." Dante's entire body tensed, and for a moment, Elena thought he might shift right there. "My pack's strength is none of your concern. It is when you're harboring unregistered wolves." Celeste gestured, and her 2 wolves moved forward, flanking Dante. "Step aside. This isn't worth a territorial dispute." "Everything about her is worth a territorial dispute," the red-haired man said cheerfully from behind Elena. "Did you feel that power surge? That wasn't normal wolf energy. That was something else entirely." "Marcus," Dante growled without turning around. "Not helping. Just making an observation, boss." Marcus moved to stand beside Elena, and she realized with a jolt that he was protecting her too. "Besides, Silver Moon Pack already has what, 50 wolves? You really need one more?" "Numbers aren't the issue," Celeste said coldly. "Protocol is. She's unregistered. She's dangerous. And she just announced her presence to every supernatural creature in the Pacific Northwest. Do you have any idea what's going to come looking for her now?" "Yes," Dante said quietly. "I do. Which is exactly why she needs proper protection. Real training, not your pack's idea of breaking in new wolves." Something flickered across Celeste's face, anger maybe, or something darker. "My methods produce results. Your methods produce trauma." The 2 alphas stared at each other, and the air between them crackled with tension. Elena could feel it pressing against her skin like static electricity, making her teeth ache and her bones hum with that restless energy that never quite went away. "Enough," she said. Everyone turned to look at her. "I don't know what's happening," Elena continued, forcing herself to meet Celeste's cold gaze. "I don't know what I am or what I did or what any of these rules are. But I'm not going anywhere with anyone until someone explains what the hell is going on." "Bold," Marcus murmured appreciatively. "Stupid but bold." "You don't get to make demands," Celeste said. "You're unregistered. That means you have no rights, no pack status, no protection under supernatural law. You're essentially feral." "I'm standing right here and I can hear you just fine," Elena snapped, surprising herself with her own anger. "And I'm not feral. I'm confused. There's a difference." Dante's lips twitched like he was fighting a smile. "She's got spirit. I'll give her that." "Spirit won't save her when the hunters arrive," Celeste said. "Or the council. Or any of the other things that are going to come crawling out of the dark now that she's announced herself." She turned her ice blue gaze back to Elena. "You have no idea what you've done, little wolf? That power surge you released, it was like setting off a beacon. Every supernatural creature within 100 miles felt it. And most of them are going to want to know what you are. What I am. Elena's hands were shaking again. I'm just a person. I work in a bookstore. I have student loans. I don't even believe in, she gestured helplessly at the wolves, at Dante, at everything. Belief is irrelevant, Celeste said. You are what you are whether you accept it or not. And what you are is dangerous. She's not dangerous, Dante said. She's untrained. There's a difference. Is there? Celeste's expression hardened. She just threw a full-grown rogue wolf 20 feet without even shifting, without even knowing what she was doing. That's not normal wolf strength, Blackwood. That's something else. Something old. The way she said old made Elena's skin crawl. Which is exactly why she needs proper training, Dante argued. Help me help her, Celeste. This doesn't have to be a pack dispute. It became a pack dispute the moment you decided to interfere. Celeste's wolves growled in unison, a low rumbling that seemed to vibrate through the ground. I'm taking her. By force if necessary. Dante's eyes flashed gold. Try it. Stop. Elena shouted, and something in her voice made everyone freeze. She could feel it building inside her again, that silver light, that impossible power. Her hands were starting to glow. Just stop, both of you. I'm not a prize to fight over. I'm a person and I get to decide what happens to me. Actually, Marcus said quietly, you don't. Not yet. Not until you're registered with a pack. Then I'll register, Elena said desperately. Right now. Whatever form I need to fill out, whatever oath I need to swear, I'll do it. Just stop looking at me like I'm a weapon you need to control. Celeste and Dante exchanged a look. It's not that simple, Dante said finally. Registration requires a blood bond with an alpha. It's permanent. You'd be bound to that pack for life. Elena's stomach dropped. For life. Or until your alpha dies, Marcus added helpfully. Or until the pack dissolves. Or until you challenge for dominance and win, but that's pretty rare for new wolves. So my choices are, Elena said slowly, bond myself permanently to a pack I know nothing about, or stay unregistered and apparently illegal? Those are the rules, Celeste said. I don't make them. The council does. What council? The North American Werewolf Council, Dante explained. They oversee all pack territories and enforce supernatural law. They're the ones who decided unregistered wolves are too dangerous to be left unclaimed. How progressive, Elena said bitterly. Marcus snorted. I like her. You like everyone, Dante muttered. A new howl split the air, closer than before and different from the others. This one sounded almost human, twisted into something that shouldn't be possible. More rogues, Marcus said, his playful demeanor vanishing. And they're bringing friends. We're out of time, Dante said. Elena, I know this is overwhelming. I know you need time to process. But if you don't choose a pack right now, you won't live long enough to regret it. How do I know I can trust you? Elena asked. How do I know you're not just trying to claim me for whatever power I apparently have? You don't, Dante said honestly. You don't know me. You don't know my pack. All you have is my word that I'll protect you, train you, and never force you to do anything against your will. That's more than most alphas would offer. Elena looked at Celeste. And you? I would break you properly, Celeste said without hesitation. Teach you discipline, control, obedience. My pack is strong because we follow rules. You would learn your place and you would learn it quickly. That's not exactly a compelling pitch, Marcus observed. I don't make compelling pitches, Celeste said coldly. I state facts. The girl needs discipline. My pack provides it. The howls were getting closer. Elena could see shapes moving in the darkness at both ends of the alley, rogues, drawn by her power, by the scent of something they wanted but couldn't name. Choose, Dante said quietly. Please. Elena looked at her glowing hands, at the two alphas watching her with such intensity, at Marcus's surprisingly kind eyes. If I go with you, she said to Dante, and I don't like it if your pack isn't what you say it is, can I leave? No, he said. The bond is permanent. I won't lie about that. But I will promise you a voice in pack decisions. Autonomy over your own life. Freedom to be who you are, not who someone else wants you to be. Pretty words, Celeste said. But his pack is dying, little wolf. Half its members scattered after the last alpha died. He can't protect you. He can barely protect himself. Dante's jaw tightened, but he didn't deny it. Elena took a deep breath. The rogues were circling now, staying just out of sight but close enough that she could hear their labored breathing, smell the wrongness coming off them in waves. I choose. One of the rogues lunged from the shadows, faster than the others, its jaws aimed at Elena's throat. Dante moved like lightning, his shift instantaneous. He caught the rogue midair, and they crashed to the ground in a snarling heap. But 3 more rogues appeared behind the first. And this time they weren't alone. A man stepped out of the darkness, human-looking but wrong in ways Elena couldn't articulate. He wore an expensive suit despite the rain, and his smile was too wide, too knowing. Well, he said, his voice smooth as oil, isn't this interesting? The Blackwood Alpha, the Silver Moon Alpha, and a brand new wolf who smells like... He inhaled deeply, his eyes closing in something like ecstasy. Like moonlight and thunder and old magic. Oh, this is delicious. Hunters, Marcus hissed. Elena, get behind me. Now. But Elena couldn't move. The man's eyes had opened and they were completely black. No whites, no iris, just endless darkness. Hello, little wolf, the hunter said. I've been waiting a very long time for something like you. Chapter 3. The hunter's presence changed everything. The air itself seemed to curdle around him, turning thick and oily. Even the rogues, creatures that had moments ago been single-mindedly focused on tearing Elena apart, were backing away, whimpering low in their throats. Stay very still, Dante said quietly. He'd shifted back to human form, but his body remained coiled, ready to move. Don't look directly at him. Don't speak to him. What is he? Elena whispered. Something that shouldn't exist, Celeste answered. Her wolves had moved to flank her, their hackles raised despite their obvious fear. Hunters were human once. They bargained their humanity for power. Power to track supernatural creatures, to bind them, to break them. The hunter's smile widened. Such harsh words, Alpha Celeste. We prefer to think of ourselves as collectors. Preservers of rare specimens. You're abominations, Dante said flatly. Perhaps. The hunter took a step forward, and Elena felt her entire body scream at her to run. But we're very effective abominations. And when word reached us that a new wolf had emerged, one whose power signature doesn't match any known bloodline, well, we simply had to investigate. She's under pack protection, Dante said. Is she? The hunter's black eyes fixed on Elena. I don't see a bond mark. I don't smell an alpha's claim. She looks remarkably unclaimed to me. She's about to register with Cascade Ridge Pack, Marcus said quickly. We were just finishing the ceremony when your rogues interrupted. How convenient. The hunter's gaze didn't leave Elena. Tell me, little wolf. Do you know what you are? Human, Elena said, though the word felt like a lie even as she spoke it. I'm human. The hunter laughed, a sound like breaking glass. Oh, you sweet ignorant thing. You're about as human as I am. Less actually. I chose to give up my humanity. You never had it to begin with. Don't listen to him, Dante said. Hunters lie. It's what they do. I'm not lying. The hunter spread his hands in a mockery of innocence. I'm simply stating facts. Your little wolf here, she's not like other wolves. Can't you feel it? That power isn't pack magic. It's older. Wilder. Something that was supposed to have died out centuries ago. What are you talking about? Elena demanded, fear making her bold. Moonsingers, the hunter said, and the word seemed to echo in ways that shouldn't be possible. That's what your kind were called once upon a time. Wolves who could shape moon magic itself, bend it to their will. They were hunted to extinction during the Purge Wars. Or so everyone thought. Elena's hands started glowing again, that silver light pulsing in time with her racing heart. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't you? The hunter took another step forward. Haven't you always felt different? Like you were watching the world through glass, separated from everyone around you? Haven't you dreamed of running on 4 legs, of hunting under the full moon, of power that burns in your veins like starfire? Stop, Elena whispered. That restlessness you feel every lunar cycle, that's your true nature trying to break free. But you've been suppressing it so long, fighting it so hard that when it finally awakened, the hunter gestured at the crater where Elena had released her power. Well, you made quite the entrance. Enough, Celeste snapped. State your business or leave, hunter. You have no authority here. Don't I? The hunter pulled something from his jacket, a scroll sealed with black wax. I have a warrant from the council. Any unregistered supernatural displaying dangerous or unusual abilities is to be detained for evaluation. Seems your little Moonsinger qualifies on both counts. Dante moved to stand directly in front of Elena. That warrant isn't worth the paper it's written on. She's registering with Cascade Ridge Pack. She'll be under proper supervision. Your pack has 7 members, the hunter said. 4 of whom are barely adults, 1 who's crippled, and 2 who are you and your overeager beta. He nodded at Marcus. You can't protect her. You can barely protect yourselves. Try us, Marcus said, his friendly demeanor completely gone. His eyes had gone full wolf, amber and feral. The hunter sighed. I was hoping to do this peacefully. Truly. But if you insist on being difficult. He raised one hand and the rogues, all of them at least a dozen, surged forward in a coordinated attack. Marcus, get her out of here. Dante shifted mid-shout, his massive black wolf form barreling into the nearest rogue. Celeste's wolves charged in from the other side, ice blue eyes blazing. For a moment, it was impossible to tell who was fighting whom. Fur and fangs and claws everywhere, blood spraying across wet pavement. Come on. Marcus grabbed Elena's arm, pulling her toward the far end of the alley. But the hunter was faster. He appeared in front of them, that too-wide smile still fixed on his face, and placed one hand against Marcus's chest. Marcus flew backward like he'd been hit by a truck. He slammed into the wall with a sickening crack and didn't get up. Marcus. Elena tried to run to him, but the hunter caught her wrist. The moment his skin touched hers, agony exploded through her body. It felt like he was trying to pull her soul out through her arm, yanking at something deep inside her that shouldn't be touched. There it is, the hunter breathed, his black eyes rolling back in ecstasy. Oh, you're magnificent. So much power just waiting to be harvested. Elena's survival instinct kicked in. She didn't think, didn't plan, just reacted. Silver light exploded from her palm and the hunter screamed. He let go, stumbling backward, staring at his hand. Where Elena's power had touched him, his skin was burned, not with fire, but with something that looked like frost and starlight combined. Impossible, he hissed. You can't, Moonsingers can't. I don't care what I can't do, Elena said, and was shocked by how steady her voice sounded. Stay away from me. The hunter looked at her with something like respect. You don't even know how to use it yet. When you're fully awakened, properly trained, he smiled again, though this time it looked strained. I'll be back for you, little Moonsinger. Count on it. He gestured, and the rogues immediately broke off their attacks. They fled into the darkness, following their master as he disappeared into the shadows. For a moment, the alley was silent except for heavy breathing and the distant sound of rain. Then Dante shifted back to human form, bleeding from a dozen wounds. Is everyone? Marcus is hurt, Elena said, rushing to where the beta lay crumpled against the wall. He was breathing but barely. There was blood, too much blood, and his arm was bent at an angle that made Elena's stomach turn. He'll heal, Celeste said, though her voice was less cold than before. Wolves always heal. But that hunter did something to him. Some kind of binding magic. We need to get him to a healer, Dante said, limping over. And we need to move now. That hunter will be back with reinforcements. Agreed. Celeste looked at Elena with new calculation in her ice blue eyes. Moonsinger. I thought they were all dead. What does it mean? Elena asked desperately. What am I? Rare, Celeste said. Valuable. And extremely dangerous to yourself and everyone around you. She paused. But also necessary. If the hunters are moving openly, collecting wolves, we may need someone with your particular gifts. She's not joining Silver Moon Pack, Dante said firmly. I wasn't offering. Celeste turned to leave, her wolves falling in behind her. But Blackwood, keep her alive. Whatever she is, she's important. I can feel it. Then she was gone, vanishing into the rain-soaked night. Dante knelt beside Marcus, checking his injuries with gentle hands. Can you walk? Can I fly? Marcus muttered, then groaned. No to both. That hunter hit like a freight train made of nightmares. I'll carry you. Dante looked at Elena. We need to go to Pack territory. It's warded, protected. The hunters can't follow us there. Where is it? North Portland. Edge of the Columbia River Gorge. He carefully lifted Marcus, who whimpered despite obvious efforts not to. It's about a 20-minute drive if we can get to my truck. My car is closer, Elena said. In the garage 2 blocks from here. Dante hesitated, then nodded. Lead the way. But stay close. And if anything feels wrong, anything at all, you run. Don't try to fight. Just run. Elena almost laughed. I don't even know how to fight. That, Dante said grimly, is going to change very quickly. They made it to Elena's beat-up Honda without incident, though every shadow made her jump. Marcus was loaded into the back seat, still conscious but looking increasingly pale. "He's going into shock," Dante said as Elena started the engine. "Drive fast." She drove fast. The city blurred past, streetlights and rain and the occasional glimpse of glowing eyes watching from dark alleys. Elena's hands were shaking on the wheel, adrenaline making her vision sharp and strange. "Take the next exit," Dante directed. "Then follow the signs toward the Columbia River Gorge." "You live in a national park?" "Near it. Wolf packs tend to prefer areas with lots of forest. Less chance of accidental exposure." "Right. Because that's my biggest concern right now. Accidental exposure." Dante's lips twitched despite the tension. "You're handling this remarkably well, all things considered." "I'm having a complete mental breakdown," Elena said. "I'm just doing it internally." "Fair enough." They drove in silence for a while, the city gradually giving way to suburbs, then forest. The rain had stopped, and through breaks in the clouds, Elena could see the moon, 3/4 full, bright as a searchlight. Looking at it made her chest ache. Made that restless thing inside her stir and stretch and whisper words she couldn't quite hear. "Does it hurt?" Dante asked quietly. "The pull?" "Every month," Elena admitted. "I thought I was going crazy. It started when I was 13. "You're not crazy. You're just awakening later than most. Usually, first shift happens during puberty. For you to have gone this long without shifting, that's almost unheard of." "Lucky me." "Actually," Dante said, "it might have been. If you'd shifted as a teenager without training or pack support, you probably wouldn't have survived. The fact that you've held it back this long, even unconsciously, that takes incredible willpower. Or incredible denial. Sometimes they're the same thing." Marcus groaned from the back seat. "Are we there yet? Because I think my ribs are trying to escape through my spine." "Almost," Dante assured him. "Elena, turn left at the next fire road. You'll see a private drive marked Blackwood. That's us." The private drive was barely more than a dirt path cutting through dense forest. Elena's car bounced and rattled over ruts and roots, and she prayed the suspension would hold. After what felt like miles, the trees opened up into a clearing. Elena's breath caught. The Cascade Ridge packed territory was beautiful. A large lodge-style building sat at the center, all wood and stone and massive windows reflecting the moonlight. Smaller cabins dotted the clearing around it, connected by stone pathways. Beyond them she could see training areas, gardens, what looked like a small lake. But it was also empty. Set. Like a town that had been abandoned, with only a handful of lights glowing in the darkness. "Home sweet home," Marcus said weakly. "Population not enough." Dante's jaw tightened. "Let's get you inside." As Elena parked, the lodge's front door burst open. 3 people rushed out, a woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair, a teenage girl with braces, and a man on crutches who looked barely older than Elena. "What happened?" the woman demanded, immediately moving to help Marcus out of the car. "Dante, you're bleeding." "Later, Sophie. Marcus first." "Hunter magic." The woman's eyes widened. "Hunters? Here. In Portland?" "Apparently." Dante helped maneuver Marcus toward the lodge. "They had a council warrant. They were after." He stopped, seeming to remember Elena was there. All 3 of the new arrivals turned to look at her. The teenage girl spoke first, her voice tentative. "Is she unregistered?" "Was unregistered," Dante said. "But she's going to join the pack. Elena, this is Sophie, our healer. That's Arya, one of our younger wolves. And Quinn." "Former warrior," the man on crutches said with a wry smile. Emphasis on former. "Car accident, before you ask. Drunk driver. Very unromantic for a werewolf." "I wasn't going to," Elena started, then stopped. "Actually, I don't know what I was going to say. This is all completely insane." "You'll get used to it," Arya said cheerfully. Then her eyes widened. "Wait, you're glowing." Elena looked down. Her hands were lit with that silver light again, pulsing brighter with each heartbeat. "The moon," Sophie said sharply. "It's nearly full. Dante, she's going to shift tonight." "She can't," Dante said. "She's not ready. She doesn't know how to control it." "She doesn't have a choice," Sophie interrupted. "Look at her. The moon is calling and her wolf is answering. If she tries to hold it back now, after everything that's happened, it'll tear her apart," Quinn finished quietly. Elena felt it then, a pulling sensation like something with hooks in her soul was yanking her toward the sky, toward the moon, toward something she'd spent 10 years running from. "I can't," she gasped. I don't know how. You don't need to know how, Dante said gently. He was suddenly in front of her, his hands on her shoulders, his golden eyes locked with hers. Your body knows. Your wolf knows. You just have to stop fighting and let go. What if I can't come back? You will. I promise. He smiled. And despite everything, the blood, the fear, the impossible night, it was warm. Real. I'll be right here. We all will. You're not alone anymore, Elena. The moon broke free of the clouds, full and bright and pitiless. Elena screamed. And then she was falling into silver light and ancient hunger. The last thing she heard before the wolf took her was Dante's voice. Welcome to the pack. Dear listener, if Elena's awakening has stirred something wild within you, if you felt the pull of the moon alongside her journey from bookstore worker to something infinitely more powerful, then don't let this story slip away into the night. Subscribe now, because what comes next will test everything Elena thought she knew about herself. The first shift is only the beginning, and the real danger hasn't even shown its fangs yet. Hunters are circling. Alphas are watching. And Elena's power is attracting attention from forces that have remained hidden for centuries. Hit that subscribe button, and let's run together into the moonlit chaos that awaits. The pack is calling, and you won't want to miss what happens when Elena discovers just how deep the rabbit hole goes. Chapter 4. Pain. That was Elena's first coherent thought when consciousness returned. Pain everywhere. Her bones, her muscles, even her skin felt like it had been peeled off and put back on wrong. She was lying on something soft. A bed maybe. The sheets smelled like pine and wood smoke and something wild she couldn't name. Easy, came a voice. Dante's voice. Don't try to move yet. First shift takes a lot out of you. Elena forced her eyes open. She was in a bedroom, rustic, with exposed wooden beams and a stone fireplace. Dawn light filtered through gauzy curtains. Dante sat in a chair beside the bed, looking exhausted. He'd changed clothes, but she could still see healing wounds on his arms. Did I? Her voice came out as a croak. Shift. Yes. You were magnificent. He smiled. Terrifying but magnificent. Your wolf is silver. I've never seen that color before. Most wolves are black, brown, gray. But you're pure silver like moonlight given form. Elena looked down at her hands. Human hands. Normal hands. I don't remember any of it. That's normal for a first shift. Your human consciousness takes a backseat while your wolf figures things out. The next few times will be easier. You'll be more present, more in control. Next few times, Elena repeated numbly. This is going to keep happening? Every full moon at minimum. More often if you want to, once you learn control. Dante leaned forward. I know this isn't the life you chose, but it's the life you have. We can help you, teach you to manage it, to coexist with your wolf instead of fighting it. Elena closed her eyes. 24 hours ago, her biggest concern had been whether she could afford to replace her car's failing transmission. Now she was a werewolf. A Moonsinger, whatever that meant. Being hunted by creatures that shouldn't exist. The hunter, she said suddenly. He said he'd come back. He will. They always do. Dante's expression darkened. But he can't enter pack territory without explicit permission. The wards see to that. As long as you stay here, you're safe. Safe but trapped. For now. Until you're trained enough to defend yourself. Then you can go wherever you want, though I'd recommend staying within pack boundaries when possible. There's safety in numbers. Elena finally looked around the room properly. Where am I? Guest room. You'll have your own cabin eventually once you're settled. If you decide to stay. You said the bond was permanent. The registration bond is, but you haven't actually completed it yet. What happened last night was just your first shift. To officially join the pack, you need to participate in a bonding ceremony. Blood oath witnessed by the pack, sealed under the full moon. And if I don't? Dante was quiet for a moment. Then you remain unregistered, which means any alpha can claim you by force. Any hunter can detain you legally. Any rogue can attack you without consequence. He met her eyes. I won't lie to you, Elena. Your choices aren't great. But they're still choices. A knock at the door interrupted them. Sophie poked her head in, her steel-gray hair pulled back in a neat braid. She's awake. Good. I need to check her vitals. I'll give you privacy, Dante said, standing. There's breakfast downstairs when you're ready. And clothes in the dresser. Arya donated some of hers. You two are about the same size. He left, closing the door softly behind him. Sophie moved to the bedside with the practiced efficiency of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. She checked Elena's pulse, looked into her eyes, pressed gentle fingers against the lymph nodes in her neck. Elevated heart rate, but that's normal post-shift. Pupils responsive. No signs of rejection. She smiled. You did well for a first-timer. Most new wolves take hours to shift back. You managed it in 90 minutes. I don't remember shifting back. Your body did it automatically when your wolf got tired. That's actually a good sign. Means your human and wolf sides are already learning to communicate. Sophie pulled up a chair. I'm sure you have questions. I'm the pack's healer, but I also handle education for new wolves. Whatever you want to know, ask. Elena had about 1,000,000 questions, but one rose to the surface first. What's a Moonsinger? Sophie's expression grew serious. Honestly, I don't know much. They were before my time, before anyone's time really. The last confirmed Moonsinger died almost 300 years ago during what we call the Purge Wars. Humans discovered werewolves existed and tried to exterminate us. We survived, obviously, but a lot of bloodlines were lost. Moonsingers were specifically targeted because their power made them the most dangerous. Dangerous how? They could manipulate moon magic directly. Most werewolves are bound by the moon cycles. We're stronger during the full moon, weaker during the new moon. But Moonsingers could access that power anytime, channel it through themselves. They could heal other wolves, break curses, even strip an alpha of their dominance if they wanted to. Elena's stomach dropped. The hunter said my power could be harvested. Hunters say a lot of things. Most of it's lies designed to make you afraid. But Sophie's expression suggested she wasn't entirely sure about that. What matters is that you're here now, safe, with a pack that will protect you while you learn what you can do. A pack of 7 people. 8 now that you're here. Sophie's smile was gentle. I know it's not much. Dante's father, the previous alpha, died 5 years ago in a challenge. Most of the pack scattered after that, looking for stronger alphas to follow. Dante was barely 20 when he inherited the position. He spent the last 5 years trying to rebuild. But, she shrugged. It's hard to attract wolves to a weak pack. So why did you stay? Because Dante is a good man. A good alpha despite what others say. He's fair, compassionate, and he actually cares about his wolves as individuals, not just as assets to increase his power. Sophie stood. Get dressed, eat something. Then we'll start your education. The next full moon is 28 days away. We need you functional before then. After Sophie left, Elena dragged herself out of bed. Every muscle protested, but she forced herself to move. The dresser did indeed contain clothes, practical things, jeans and t-shirts and a warm fleece jacket. She dressed slowly, catching glimpses of herself in the mirror above the dresser. She looked different. Not dramatically so, but sharper somehow. Her eyes seemed brighter, more alert. Her skin had a faint luminescence that might have been her imagination. Or might not. Downstairs, she found the rest of the pack gathered in a large open kitchen. It smelled amazing: bacon, eggs, fresh bread. Her stomach growled loudly enough that everyone looked up. The newbie lives, Marcus announced cheerfully. He was sitting at the table, his injured arm in a sling, but otherwise looking remarkably healthy. Come on, sit. You must be starving. First shift always leaves you hungry enough to eat a moose. We had a moose once, Arya said. Hit by a car on Highway 84. Dante, brought it home and we lived off it for like 2 months. Arya calls him Dad, sometimes, Quinn explained, pouring coffee. Old habit. Dante raised her after her parents died. They were in his father's pack. Car accident, Arya added quickly. I was 8. Dante took me in even though he was only 18 and barely keeping the pack together after his father died. Elena accepted a plate loaded with food from Sophie and sat at the end of the table. How did his father die? The kitchen went very quiet. Challenge, Dante said from the doorway. Elena hadn't heard him come in. Another alpha wanted our territory. My father accepted the challenge and lost. I inherited a pack in shambles and a reputation as the son of a weak alpha. That's not fair, Arya said fiercely. Your father was sick. Everyone knew it. Thorn took advantage. Arya. Dante's voice was gentle but firm. It doesn't matter now. What's done is done. He joined them at the table, and Elena noticed how the others automatically shifted to make space for him, how they oriented toward him even in casual conversation. Pack dynamics, she realized. He was the center, the anchor. Even with only 7 members, the structure was clear. So, Marcus said, breaking the tension. Today's agenda. Elena needs to learn pack law, pack hierarchy, basic control techniques, and probably about 100 other things before the next moon. Sophie's handling education, Quinn said. I'm covering physical training. And I need to check the wards, Dante interrupted. After last night's attack, I want to make sure nothing was compromised. I can help with that, Quinn offered. You're still healing. I'm always healing. Might as well be useful while I do it. They fell into easy conversation, discussing schedules and chores and training routines. Elena ate and listened, trying to absorb this strange new reality. These people, this pack, had opened their home to her without question, offered her safety and teaching and acceptance. But they were so few. And if what Celeste had said was true, if hunters were actively targeting wolves now, what do hunters want? Elena asked suddenly. Everyone stopped talking. Power, Sophie said finally. They were human once, but they bargained their humanity away, made deals with dark forces to gain abilities that let them hunt supernatural creatures. They collect us, study us, harvest our magic for their own use. The council tolerates them, Dante added bitterly. Claims they serve a purpose, keeping rogue supernaturals in check. But really, the council just doesn't want to start a war they might not win. So we just let them hunt us? We avoid them when possible, fight when necessary, and hope they lose interest before they do too much damage. Dante's jaw tightened. It's not a great system, but it's the one we have. Elena thought about the hunter's black eyes, his hungry smile, the way he'd looked at her like she was a prize to be won. He called me valuable. Rare. You are, Dante said quietly. Moonsingers were powerful even by supernatural standards. If the hunters think they can capture you, use your power somehow, they won't stop until they succeed or you kill them. Great. No pressure. We won't let them take you, Arya said fiercely. You're pack now. We protect our own. I haven't done the ceremony yet, Elena pointed out. Doesn't matter, Marcus said. You're already one of us. The ceremony just makes it official. Elena looked around the table at these near strangers who decided she was worth protecting, worth saving, worth risking their lives for. She wasn't sure she deserved that kind of loyalty, but she was desperately grateful for it anyway. After breakfast, Sophie led her to what had once been a library but now served as a classroom. Bookshelves lined the walls, filled with texts on werewolf history, pack dynamics, supernatural law. Sophie pulled several down and stacked them on a reading table. Welcome to Werewolf 101. By the end of today you'll know the basics, enough to not accidentally break any major laws or insult anyone important. The next several hours were a blur of information. Elena learned about pack structure. Alphas at the top, then betas like Marcus, then various rank positions down to omegas at the bottom. She learned about territory law, challenge rights, blood bonds. She learned that werewolves weren't the only supernatural creatures. There were vampires, witches, fae, and dozens of other species, all with their own laws and territories and ancient grudges. It's overwhelming, Sophie said sympathetically when Elena's eyes started glazing over. You don't need to memorize everything. Just understand the basics. Don't challenge anyone to a dominance fight unless you mean it. Don't enter another pack's territory without permission. Don't reveal your nature to humans. And never, ever break a blood oath. What happens if you break a blood oath? The magic that sealed it kills you. Painfully. Sophie closed the last book. That's enough for today. Your brain needs time to process. Marcus wants you in the training yard after lunch. He'll start teaching you basic combat. I don't know how to fight. You'll learn. Every wolf needs to know how to defend themselves. Lunch was sandwiches eaten on the run. Then Marcus led her outside to a large, flat area behind the lodge where combat training apparently happened. Quinn was already there, sitting on a bench and reading a book despite the autumn chill. Supervisor, he explained when Elena looked questioningly at him. I can't fight anymore, but I can make sure Marcus doesn't accidentally break you. I'm gentle, Marcus protested. You're enthusiastic. There's a difference. For the next 2 hours, Marcus taught Elena basic stances, how to fall without hurting herself, how to read an opponent's movements. He was patient and encouraging, even when she stumbled or moved too slowly. Your wolf instincts will help, he said. Once you shift a few more times, your human form will retain some of those advantages, faster reflexes, better strength, enhanced senses. But you need the fundamentals first. By the time they finished, Elena was exhausted and covered in bruises. But she'd also landed a hit that made Marcus grunt and stumble back. Good, he said, grinning. You're a natural. I barely touched you. You touched me at all. That's progress. That night, Elena lay in her guest room bed, staring at the ceiling. Her body ached. Her mind was overloaded with information. And she still couldn't quite believe any of this was real. But when she closed her eyes she could feel it, the wolf curled up inside her like a second heartbeat. Not separate from her but part of her. Had it always been there waiting? A soft knock at her door made her jump. "It's me," Dante's voice came through. "Can I come in?" "Sure." He entered, closing the door softly behind him. "Wanted to check on you. Your first day as a wolf. It's a lot." "That's an understatement." Elena sat up. "Is it always this complicated?" "Usually it's worse. Most new wolves are turned violently, attacked by rogues or bitten during hunts. They wake up transformed with no warning, no preparation. At least you have support, training, a safe place to learn." "Lucky me." Dante smiled. "You're handling it well. Sophie says you absorbed more today than most wolves learn in a week. Marcus says your combat instincts are solid. And Arya won't stop talking about how cool your silver wolf form is. What do you think?" He was quiet for a moment, his golden eyes studying her in the dim light. "I think you're stronger than you know. Braver than you believe. And I think whatever comes next, hunters, council, other packs, we'll face it together. You don't even know me. I know enough." He stood to leave, then paused. "The bonding ceremony. There's no rush. Take whatever time you need to decide. But know that this pack, we want you here. Not because of your power but because of who you are." After he left, Elena lay awake for a long time, thinking about choices and packs and the strange new future stretching out before her. Outside her window, the moon shone bright and cold. And somewhere in the darkness something howled. Chapter 5. Elena woke to screaming. She bolted upright, heart pounding, the sound cutting through the pre-dawn darkness like a blade. It took her a moment to orient herself. She was in the guest room in Cascade Ridge Pack territory, safe behind wards that nothing could breach. Except the screaming was coming from inside the territory. She threw on clothes and ran downstairs. The others were already gathered in the main hall, Sophie in a bathrobe, Arya clutching a baseball bat, Quinn leaning heavily on his crutches. Marcus was at the door, partially shifted, his eyes glowing amber in the darkness. "What's happening?" Elena demanded. "Perimeter alarm," Dante said, descending the stairs 2 at a time. He was fully dressed, which meant he probably hadn't slept at all. Something triggered the wards on the eastern boundary. Something or someone? That's what we're going to find out. He looked at Marcus. "You're with me. Sophie, Arya, stay here with Elena and Quinn. If we're not back in 30 minutes, activate the emergency protocols." "What emergency protocols?" Elena asked. "The ones where we all pile into the SUV and run for our lives," Arya said, her attempt at humor falling flat. Dante and Marcus disappeared into the darkness. The rest of them waited in tense silence, watching the tree line. Elena's newly awakened senses picked up things she'd never noticed before. The rustle of leaves, the distant sound of water, the electric buzz of the wards themselves, humming with protective magic. 23 minutes later, Dante and Marcus returned. They weren't alone. The person they half-carried, half-dragged between them was young, maybe 17 or 18, with dark skin, close-cropped hair, and wounds that made Elena's stomach turn. Deep claw marks raked across their chest and arms, and their leg was bent at an angle that was definitely wrong. "Kitchen table," Sophie commanded, already moving. "Arya, get my kit. Elena, I need hot water and clean towels." Elena ran to obey, grateful to have something to do besides stare at the blood. By the time she returned with supplies, Sophie had the stranger laid out on the kitchen table and was cutting away their shredded shirt. "Hunter attack," Dante said grimly. "They were running from a pack of them. Made it to our boundary before collapsing." "How did they know to come here?" Quinn asked. "They didn't. Pure luck or maybe instinct. Wounded wolves sometimes run for the nearest pack territory without conscious thought." Sophie worked quickly, cleaning wounds and checking for broken bones. The stranger drifted in and out of consciousness, mumbling words Elena couldn't make out. "They're young," Sophie said. "Recently turned, if I had to guess. The wounds aren't healing the way an established wolf's would." "Can you save them?" Arya asked quietly. "I think so. But they'll need time and rest. And answers." Sophie looked at Dante. "We need to know why the hunters were chasing them." As if in response, the stranger's eyes snapped open. They were golden, pure wolf gold with no human coloring left. Their gaze darted around wildly until it landed on Dante. "Alpha," they gasped. "Please, they're coming. The hunters. They're rounding up wolves. Building a collection. I escaped, but the others?" Their voice broke. "There are so many others." "How many?" Dante asked, his voice gentle despite the urgency. "Dozens. Maybe more. They're taking them to some kind of facility, testing them, draining their magic. The stranger tried to sit up and immediately collapsed back with a cry of pain. Easy, Sophie soothed. Don't move. You're safe now. Nowhere is safe. The stranger's eyes found Elena, and something like recognition flickered across their face. You're the Moonsinger. They talked about you. Said you were the prize worth more than all the others combined. Elena's blood ran cold. How do they know about me? Everyone knows. The power surge you released, it lit up every supernatural sensor from here to Canada. The hunters have been mobilizing since then, trying to capture as many wolves as possible before. They trailed off, coughing. Before what? Dante pressed. Before she fully awakens. They said once a Moonsinger reaches full power, they become nearly impossible to capture. But if they can get her before then while she's still learning, the stranger's eyes started to close. They'll use her to find all the others. Her power can track any wolf anywhere. She's the key to their entire operation. That's enough, Sophie said firmly. They need rest. We can continue this later. But Elena couldn't move, couldn't breathe. Everything she'd done in the past few days, the power surge coming to pack territory, starting to train, all of it had put a target not just on her back but on every wolf in the region. This isn't your fault, Dante said quietly, reading her expression. Isn't it? They said I'm the prize. That they're rounding up other wolves because of me. They're rounding up other wolves because they're predators, and that's what predators do. You're not responsible for their actions. But I triggered this. The power surge. Would have happened eventually whether you wanted it to or not. The only difference is timing. Dante guided her away from the table, toward the living room where they could speak more privately. Elena, listen to me. The hunters have been hunting our kind for centuries. They would have done this with or without you. You're just an excuse, not a cause. They're capturing wolves to get to me. Maybe. Or maybe they've been planning this for years, and you gave them a convenient cover story. He sat down heavily on the couch. Either way, the answer is the same. We prepare. We train. We make you strong enough that when they come, and they will come, you can defend yourself and everyone else. Elena sank down beside him. Through the window she could see dawn breaking, painting the sky in shades of pink and gold. Her second day as a werewolf, and already people were getting hurt because of her. What if I can't? She whispered. What if I'm not strong enough? Then we'll make you strong enough. That's what pack is for. Over the next few days, life fell into a strange new rhythm. Elena's mornings were spent with Sophie, learning pack law and supernatural history. Afternoons belonged to Marcus and his increasingly intense combat training. Evenings were for pack dinners, where everyone gathered and talked about their day like this was all perfectly normal. The stranger, whose name turned out to be River, recovered slowly. They were quiet and watchful, flinching at sudden movements, waking with nightmares that had the whole lodge on alert. But gradually they started to relax, started to trust. I was turned 3 months ago, River told them one evening over dinner. Rogue attack. I didn't even know werewolves were real until I woke up in a hospital with claws and fur and an uncontrollable urge to hunt. No one helped you? Arya asked, horrified. I didn't know to ask for help. Didn't know packs existed or laws or any of it. I just tried to hide what I was. River's hands trembled slightly. The hunters found me first. Said they were taking me somewhere safe, somewhere I could learn control. By the time I realized they were lying, I was locked in a cage with 20 other wolves. How did you escape? Quinn asked. There was an explosion. Some kind of magical accident in one of their testing labs. It brought down part of the facility. I ran. River looked at their hands. I should have helped the others escape too. But I was so scared. You survived, Dante interrupted gently. That's not something to feel guilty about. But the others? We'll get them out. I promise. After dinner, Elena found Dante in his study, a small room lined with books and maps and what looked like very old pack records. He was bent over a map of the Pacific Northwest, marking locations with red pins. Possible hunter facilities, he explained when he noticed her watching. Based on River's description and some intel I've been gathering, there are at least 3 in the region. Maybe more. You're planning a rescue. I'm planning reconnaissance. We need to know what we're dealing with before we do anything rash. He straightened, rolling his shoulders. But yes, eventually we'll need to move against them. We can't let them keep capturing wolves. Even though it might be a trap, they know I'm here. They know you'll come for the captured wolves. Probably. Dante's smile was grim. Which is why we need you trained and ready before we make any moves. If this is a trap, we'll spring it on our terms, not theirs. How long do we have? River says the hunters are planning something big in 3 weeks. Some kind of demonstration for potential buyers. Apparently there's a black market for supernatural creatures and their magic. If we're going to move, it needs to be before then. 3 weeks. 21 days to become strong enough to face trained hunters, rescue dozens of captured wolves, and somehow not get herself and everyone she cared about killed in the process. No pressure at all. The next few days blurred together in a haze of training and study. Elena learned to shift on command, not easy but getting easier each time. She learned to fight in both human and wolf form, how to use her enhanced strength and speed without losing control. She learned pack tactics, coordinated attacks, defensive formations. And slowly, carefully, she started to explore her Moonsinger abilities. It happened by accident the first time. She was sparring with Marcus, he in wolf form, she in human, when he landed a hit that knocked the wind out of her. Elena's hands flew up instinctively, and silver light exploded from her palms. Marcus yelped and scrambled backward. When the light faded, there was a perfect circle of frost around Elena's feet, and Marcus's fur was rimmed with ice crystals. Okay, he said, shifting back to human. That's new. Sophie came running from the lodge. What happened? I felt a power surge. She stopped, staring at the frost circle. Elena, did you do that deliberately? No. Just happened. Marcus hit me and I reacted and, Elena looked at her hands. They weren't glowing anymore, but she could feel the power humming just beneath her skin, waiting to be called. Defensive reflex, Sophie said slowly. That's actually good. It means your magic is developing protective instincts. But we need to teach you control before you accidentally freeze someone solid. Can I do that? Honestly, I have no idea what you can do. Moonsingers were rare even when they existed. Most of what I know is from old stories and those are probably exaggerated. But they weren't exaggerated, Elena discovered over the following days. She could freeze things with a touch. Create barriers of solid moonlight. Send waves of force that knocked opponents off their feet. And when she focused, really focused, she could sense other wolves. Feel their presence like heat signatures on a map of the world. That's how they want to use you, Dante said when she demonstrated this ability. To track down wolves in hiding. Find packs that have stayed off the council's radar. Can I stop it? Block it somehow. I don't know. But we'll figure it out. They trained harder, longer. Elena pushed herself past exhaustion, past pain, past the point where her muscles screamed and her magic flickered and died. She had to be ready. Had to be strong enough. 3 weeks suddenly seemed like no time at all. 12 days before the hunter's deadline, a visitor arrived at pack territory. Elena was in the training yard when the wards chimed, a sound like distant bells that meant someone was requesting entry. Everyone stopped what they were doing and turned toward the lodge. Dante emerged, his expression carefully neutral. We have a guest. Everyone inside. Now. The new wolves obeyed immediately, their recent trauma making them hyper-aware of potential threats. Elena started to follow, but Dante caught her arm. Not you. This concerns you directly. Who is it? See for yourself. At the ward boundary stood 3 wolves in human form. The one in the center was Celeste, her ice-blue eyes as cold as ever. But the 2 flanking her were unfamiliar, a tall black man with silver streaking his dark hair, and an Asian woman who radiated quiet power. Alpha Celeste, Dante called across the barrier. What brings Silver Moon Pack to my territory? Not just Silver Moon, Celeste replied. This is Alpha Vincent of the Redwood Pack, and Alpha May of the Stormwind Pack. We're here to discuss your situation. By situation, you mean Elena? Among other things. Celeste's gaze found Elena, and something flickered in her expression. Not hostility exactly, but intense calculation. May we enter? This conversation would be better held in private. Dante hesitated, clearly weighing the risks. Through the pack bond, Elena felt his uncertainty. 3 alphas on his territory could be a threat. But refusing them entry would be seen as weakness. Or guilt. They can come in, Elena said quietly. If they wanted to attack, they wouldn't ask permission first. You don't know Celeste like I do. Maybe not. But we need allies. And 3 alphas showing up together, that's not coincidence. They want something from us. Dante studied her face, then nodded slowly. Sophie, lower the wards. Marcus, Arya, River, stay visible but non-threatening. Everyone else, remain in the lodge but ready to respond if needed. The wards shimmered and parted. The 3 alphas entered, their movements careful and unthreatening. This close, Elena could feel their power, each one burning like a small sun, their dominance carefully leashed but undeniable. "Nice place you've rebuilt here," Vincent said, looking around the clearing. His voice was deep and warm, completely different from Celeste's ice. "I remember when your father ran this pack. It was twice the size." "Everything changes," Dante said neutrally. "My study is this way." They gathered in Dante's office, barely big enough for 6 people, but somehow they all fit. Elena positioned herself near the window, ready to bolt if needed. Through the glass, she could see Marcus and Arya watching from outside, their eyes glowing faintly with held-back shifts. "I'll be direct," May said once everyone was settled. "The council is preparing to move against you. Councillor Winters has convinced them that your Moonsinger poses an unacceptable risk to supernatural secrecy." "Elena is fully bonded to my pack," Dante said. "The council has no authority." "They have every authority if they deem her a threat to the greater good," Vincent said, leaning forward. "And after yesterday's incident, freeing 20 hunter-controlled rogues, breaking magical bindings that the hunters had legal permission to create, you've given them exactly the ammunition they need." "Legal permission?" Elena couldn't stay quiet. "To enslave wolves? To control them like puppets?" "The treaty between the council and the hunters is complex," May said. "Technically, rogues who've committed crimes can be placed under hunter custody for rehabilitation. The fact that this rehabilitation involves magical binding and forced servitude is overlooked by the council." "That's insane." "That's politics," Celeste said. "The council tolerates the hunters because the alternative is war. And war would expose all of us to human awareness. So they look the other way when hunters cross lines, and they punish wolves who interfere with hunter operations." "Which is where you come in," Vincent said, looking at Elena. "You're powerful, untrained, and you've now directly challenged hunter authority. The council sees you as a problem that needs to be contained." "Contained how?" The 3 alphas exchanged glances. Finally, Celeste answered. "They're proposing a tribunal. You would be brought before the full council, your abilities tested and evaluated, your status as a free wolf determined based on their findings. And if they determine I'm too dangerous? Execution or permanent binding?" "Probably the latter. They'd want to study you, understand your abilities before eliminating the last Moonsinger." Elena's blood ran cold. "That's not going to happen." "We agree," May said. "Which is why we're here." Dante had been silent, but now he spoke. "What's the catch?" 3 alphas don't show up out of goodness of their hearts to help a weak pack." "The catch," Vincent said, "is that we need her too. Not to bind or control, to fight." "Fight what?" "The hunters. They're getting bolder, capturing more wolves, operating more openly. Your mate freed 20 rogues, but there are hundreds more in their facilities. Maybe thousands. Someone needs to stop them." "And you think Elena can?" "We think a Moonsinger could," Celeste said. She stood, pacing the small office. "Moonsingers were legendary for breaking magical bonds, freeing the enslaved, nullifying dark magic. If she can be properly trained, if she reaches her full potential, she could dismantle the hunter operations entirely." "Or die trying," Elena pointed out. "That too," Celeste acknowledged. "But consider the alternative. Let the council take you, study you, eventually kill you when they've learned what they want. Or stay hidden here, waiting for the hunters to eventually breach your wards and capture you anyway. Or," May said softly, "fight back. Go on the offensive. Free every wolf the hunters have captured and burn their facilities to the ground." The office was silent. Outside, Elena could see more pack members gathering, her pack watching through windows, waiting to see what she would decide. "You want me to start a war," Elena said finally. "We want you to end one," Vincent corrected. "The hunters have been waging war against our kind for centuries. We've just been too fractured, too afraid, too concerned with council politics to fight back effectively. But if 3 major packs unite behind a common cause, if we have a Moonsinger who can actually free captive wolves, we might finally have a chance." "Why now? Why not decades ago? Centuries ago?" "Because decades ago, centuries ago there were no Moonsingers," May said. "The last one died in the Purge Wars. We've been fighting the hunters with one hand tied behind our backs ever since. You're the first real advantage we've had in 300 years. Elena looked at Dante. Through the bond, she felt his conflict. The desire to protect her warring with the knowledge that hiding wouldn't keep her safe. And beneath that, something else. Pride. He was proud of her. Proud that other alphas saw her value. Proud that his mate might be the key to ending centuries of oppression. "What would this alliance look like?" Dante asked. "Combined forces," Vincent said. Your pack would remain autonomous, but we'd coordinate on major operations. Share intelligence. Provide backup. Pool resources. 4 packs working together are exponentially stronger than 4 packs working separately. And the council would have to tread carefully, Celeste said. They might challenge one small pack. They won't dare move against 4 allied packs without significant cause. It would destabilize the entire regional power structure. Plus, May added, if we're actively working to dismantle hunter operations, the council will have a harder time painting you as the problem. You become the solution instead. It was a good pitch. Too good. Elena didn't trust it. What do you really want? She asked Celeste directly. You called me dangerous. Said I needed to be broken and disciplined. Now you're offering alliance. What changed? Celeste's smile was sharp. I saw what you did yesterday. 20 bonds broken in under an hour. Hunter magic shattered like glass. That's not dangerous, that's necessary. I was wrong to underestimate you. She paused. And perhaps wrong to think breaking you would be beneficial. Raw power like yours shouldn't be contained. It should be weaponized. I'm not a weapon. No. You're a Moonsinger, which is infinitely more valuable. Celeste's ice-blue eyes met Elena's. I won't pretend to like you. I won't pretend this alliance is about friendship or trust. But I respect power, and you have more of it than anyone I've met in a century. That deserves respect, not imprisonment. It was probably the closest thing to a compliment Celeste had ever given anyone. I need to think about this, Elena said. Talk to my pack. This affects all of us, not just me. Of course, Vincent said, standing. We'll give you 24 hours to decide. But Elena, the council is moving fast. Winters has already scheduled a hearing for 3 days from now. If you don't accept our protection, you'll be facing that tribunal alone. After the alphas left, Dante called a pack meeting. All 8 wolves crowded into the main hall, the original 7+ River, who'd asked to stay and help. You all felt what happened today through the bond, Dante said. You know what's being offered. This is a pack decision, not just mine or Elena's. Everyone gets a voice. We should accept, River said immediately. If there are more wolves like me, trapped, controlled by hunters, we have a moral obligation to free them. Even if it means war? Sophie asked gently. Especially if it means war. I spent 2 months under hunter control. Every moment was agony. If we can spare others that fate, we should. I agree, Arya said. The hunters won't stop. The council won't protect us. We need allies. Allies who see Elena as a weapon, Marcus pointed out. What happens when the hunters are defeated? Do these allied packs just let us walk away, or do they expect to keep using our Moonsinger for their own purposes? That's a risk, Quinn acknowledged. But staying isolated is a bigger risk. We're 8 wolves. Silver Moon Pack alone has 50. If the council decides to take Elena by force, we can't stop them. Not alone. The debate continued for hours. Arguments for and against, concerns and hopes, fears and possibilities. Through it all, Elena felt the pack bond humming. 8 different perspectives, 8 different fears, all tied together by loyalty and mutual protection. Finally, Dante called for a vote. All in favor of accepting the alliance? 7 hands went up. Only Sophie abstained, looking worried about the medical implications of a war. Then it's decided, Dante said. We ally with Silver Moon, Redwood, and Stormwind packs. We fight the hunters. We free the captive wolves. He looked at Elena. And we protect our Moonsinger, no matter what it costs. The pack howled their agreement, a sound that echoed through the forest, a declaration of intent that surely carried for miles. Let the hunters hear. Let the council hear. Cascade Ridge pack was done hiding. The next 24 hours were a blur of preparation. The Allied Alphas returned with advisors, strategists, and detailed intelligence on hunter facilities. Maps covered every surface in the lodge. Scouts reported on security patterns. Plans were made, refined, discarded, and made again. This facility, Vincent pointed to a location on the map, holds approximately 30 captive wolves. Light security, mostly automated systems. It would be an ideal first target, high reward, low risk. Assuming it's not a trap, Marcus said. Everything's a trap at this point, Celeste replied. The question is whether we can spring it on our terms. They decided on a 2-pronged approach. One team would hit the facility Vincent identified, a quick strike to free captive wolves and gather intelligence. Meanwhile, a smaller team would infiltrate a hunter meeting happening the same night, trying to gather information on larger operations. I'll lead the facility raid, Celeste said. I have experience with these operations. And I'll take the infiltration team, May offered. Stormwind Pack specializes in stealth operations. What about us? Elena asked. The three visiting alphas looked at Dante, who looked at Elena. Through the pack bond, she felt his protective instinct surge. He wanted to say no, wanted to keep her safe behind the wards. But they both knew that wasn't realistic anymore. Elena comes with me to the facility, Dante said finally. Her abilities will be crucial for breaking any magical bindings. Marcus and 5 of our strongest wolves will accompany us. I'm coming too, River said. I know what those facilities look like inside. I can help navigate, warn you about traps. And me, Arya added before anyone could object. I'm not staying behind while everyone else fights. Dante looked like he wanted to argue, but Sophie spoke up. She's right. We're all fighting this war, not just the adults. If we're going to do this, we do it as a complete pack. Fine. But you follow orders. You stay close to pack members. And if I say run, you run. Understood. Arya nodded seriously, the teenager gone, a warrior in her place. They spent the evening training. Elena worked with Celeste, reluctantly, learning how to sense magical bindings at a distance, how to break multiple bonds simultaneously, how to shield herself from backlash when severing hunter magic. You're raw, Celeste observed after Elena successfully broke 3 training dummy simulated bindings. But powerful. With proper training, years of it, you could be extraordinary. I don't have years. No. You have 3 days before we attack. And whatever time we can steal after that, before the hunters regroup. Celeste's expression was grim. So we make every moment count. The night before the operation, Elena couldn't sleep. She stood on the lodge's balcony watching the moon, waning now, only a sliver remaining. In a few weeks it would be full again. Her second full moon as a wolf. She wondered if it would ever feel normal. Nervous. Dante joined her, 2 mugs of tea in hand. Terrified. Elena accepted the tea gratefully. I keep thinking about all the things that could go wrong. All the ways we could fail. Me too. He took a long drink. I keep thinking about the pack members we might lose. About what happens if this plan falls apart. He stopped. About me getting captured? Among other things. Dante set down his mug and turned to face her. Elena, you don't have to do this. You could coordinate from here, use your abilities to break bonds from a safe distance. While sending others to fight a battle I'm not willing to fight myself? Elena shook her head. No. These wolves are going into danger because of me. Because I pushed for this, insisted we couldn't abandon the captives. I can't send them to fight while I hide. You're the most important wolf here. If something happens to you, then someone else will have to step up. That's how this works, isn't it? We're pack. We support each other. No one is irreplaceable. You are to me. The words hung in the air between them. They'd been dancing around this for weeks, the bond between them growing stronger, deeper, more than just pack magic. Dante. He kissed her. Not gentle this time, but desperate, like he was trying to memorize the taste of her, the feel of her in his arms. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, he rested his forehead against hers. If we survive tomorrow, he said, I'm going to properly court you. The full werewolf tradition, formal declaration, pack blessing, the whole thing. And then I'm going to ask you to be my mate. Not just pack but bonded for life. Elena's heart soared and broke at the same time. And if we don't survive? Then at least I'll die knowing I loved you. Fully, completely, without reservation. I love you too, Elena whispered. I think I have since you first showed up outside that bookstore and turned my world upside down. They spent the rest of the night together, talking and planning and stealing moments of closeness that might be their last. Dawn came too quickly. Beautiful soul, if you felt every beat of Elena's heart, every surge of her newfound power, every moment of her fear and courage, then you cannot walk away now. Subscribe, because what's coming next will shatter everything you think you know. The Hunter facility holds secrets darker than captive wolves. The Council is making moves that will change the supernatural world forever. And Elena is about to discover that being a Moonsinger means more than breaking bonds. It means becoming something that even the ancient texts never predicted. Hit that subscribe button now, and let's walk together into the fire that's been building since the moment Elena felt that first pull of the moon. The real story is just beginning, and you deserve to witness every breathtaking, heart-wrenching moment of what comes next. Chapter 6. The Hunter facility was located in an abandoned industrial park 30 miles outside Portland. From their vantage point on a hillside overlooking the compound, it looked innocent enough, Just another forgotten warehouse slowly being reclaimed by nature. But Elena could feel the wolves inside. Dozens of them, their presence like distant heartbeats, each one wrapped in the oily wrongness of hunter magic. Security patterns are consistent with what our scouts reported, Celeste said, lowering her binoculars. Guards change shifts every 4 hours. Next change is in 20 minutes. That's our window. The strike team consisted of 15 wolves. 5 from Cascade Ridge Pack including Elena, Dante, Marcus, Arya, and River. 6 from Silver Moon Pack led by Celeste. And 4 from Redwood Pack led by Vincent. May and her team had already left for their infiltration mission across the city. Remember the plan? Dante said, his voice low. Celeste's team handles external security. My team goes inside with Elena. We find the captive wolves, Elena breaks their bonds, and we evacuate before reinforcements arrive. And if things go wrong? One of Celeste's wolves asked. Then we improvise. But stay together, stay focused, and protect the Moonsinger at all costs. She's the only one who can free the captives. They moved when the guard shift changed, using the brief window of confusion to breach the perimeter. Celeste's team took out the exterior guards with brutal efficiency. No kills, just incapacitation. They couldn't afford to start an outright war. Not tonight. The facility's entrance was sealed with both physical locks and magical wards. Elena placed her hands against the door, feeling for the magical signature. It was different from the wards protecting pack territory, colder, more aggressive, designed to hurt rather than simply keep out. Can you break it? Dante asked. Give me a second. She channeled her Moonsinger abilities, finding the threads of magic woven through the ward. Unlike the hunter bindings on the rogues, this magic wasn't alive, just a static barrier, mindless and brutal. Easier to break if she could find the right leverage point. There, a weakness in the weave, a place where 2 threads crossed imperfectly. Elena grabbed it with her power and pulled. The ward shattered like glass and the physical locks clicked open. Impressive, Vincent murmured. How long have you been training? 3 weeks. 3 weeks and you can already? He shook his head. No wonder the hunters want you so badly. They entered the facility in wolf form, all except Elena, who needed her hands free to break bonds. The interior was exactly as River had described. Sterile hallways lit by fluorescent lights, reinforced doors every 20 feet, the smell of antiseptic and fear. And underneath it all, the constant hum of hunter magic. This way, River whispered, leading them deeper. The holding cells are in the basement. 3 levels down. They encountered their first hunter on the 2nd level. He was young, maybe mid-20s, monitoring security feeds in a small office. He looked up as they passed, his expression shifting from boredom to alarm in a heartbeat. Before he could sound an alert, Marcus was on him, wolf jaws closing around the man's throat, not breaking skin but making the threat very clear. The hunter went still. Where are the captives? Dante demanded, shifting just enough to speak. And don't bother lying. We can smell fear. The hunter's eyes were wide with terror. Basement level 3. Cell block D. But you can't, the bindings are too strong. You'll never break them all in time. Watch us. Dante nodded to Marcus, who released the hunter and then knocked him unconscious with one powerful strike. Keep moving. Basement level 3 was worse than Elena had imagined. The hallway stretched endlessly, lined with reinforced doors. Behind each door she could feel captive wolves, some in human form, some shifted, all bound with layer upon layer of hunter magic. There are so many, Arya whispered, her young face pale. Then we work fast. Elena approached the first door. River, can you open these? The locks are magical. You'll have to. Right. Elena placed her hands on the door. The lock was simple compared to the ward binding the wolf inside, but it still took precious seconds to unravel. The door swung open. Inside, a woman in her 40s sat on a bare cot, her eyes glazed and empty. Dark magic wrapped around her like chains, holding her consciousness hostage, forcing obedience. Elena reached for the bonds. Breaking the binding on a stationary target was easier than doing it mid-battle. The magic resisted, tried to fight back, but Elena had practiced this. She found the weak points, applied pressure, and twisted. The chains shattered. The woman gasped, her eyes clearing, awareness flooding back. What? Where am I? How long have I? You're being rescued, Dante said gently. Can you walk? Yes. Yes, I think so. Good. Stay close to us. We're getting you out. They moved from cell to cell. Elena breaking bonds while the others stood guard and helped confused, traumatized wolves to their feet. Most could barely remember how they'd been captured. Some had been bound for months. One man claimed he'd been a hunter captive for 2 years. 2 years? Arya breathed. How did no one notice? Because he was probably reported as a rogue and forgotten, Marcus said bitterly. That's how the system works. Wolves who don't fit into nice pack structures get labeled problems and erased. They'd freed 17 wolves when the alarm started blaring. They know we're here, Vincent growled. We need to move faster. I'm going as fast as I can. Elena's hands were trembling from the effort of breaking so many bonds in quick succession. Each binding she shattered took more energy, more focus. She was starting to feel hollowed out. How many more? Dante asked River. This hallway has 36 cells. There are 2 more hallways just like it. Over 100 captive wolves. And they barely freed a fraction of them. We can't get them all, Celeste said, appearing from her guard position. External security is mobilizing. We have maybe 10 minutes before this place is swarming with hunters. Then we take who we can and come back for the rest, Dante decided. Elena, focus on the wolves who can still walk. We'll triage. It was brutal logic but necessary. They moved faster, Elena breaking bonds on wolves who seemed strongest, while others helped them toward the exit. Some of the captives were too far gone. Bound for so long their minds had fractured, their wolves retreated so deep they couldn't surface. We'll come back, Elena promised each one they had to leave behind, though the words felt hollow. I swear we'll come back. They'd freed 29 wolves when the hunters arrived. Not the young security guard or scattered facility workers they'd encountered so far. These were trained combat hunters, armed with weapons designed specifically to hurt supernatural creatures. They poured into the basement from both ends of the hallway, trapping the strike team between them. Defensive formation. Dante shouted. Protect the freed wolves. What followed was chaos. The wolves of the strike team shifted fully, forming a protective circle around Elena and the traumatized captives. The hunters attacked with silver-tipped weapons, magical restraints, and something that looked like tasers but delivered pure agony instead of electricity. Elena worked frantically, breaking the last few bonds she could reach while the battle raged around her. One of Celeste's wolves went down screaming, struck by whatever those taser-like weapons delivered. Vincent took a silver blade to the shoulder but kept fighting, his massive wolf form bowling over 2 hunters at once. Elena, we have to go, Marcus called, blood dripping from a wound on his flank. Now. Just one more. A hunter broke through the defensive line, his black eyes fixed on Elena. He moved with supernatural speed, crossing the distance between them in a heartbeat, his hand reaching for her throat. Dante hit him like a freight train. They rolled across the floor in a snarl of fur and violence, Dante's jaws seeking the hunter's throat while the man's knife sought Dante's heart. The hunter was strong, impossibly strong. He threw Dante off, slamming him into the wall hard enough to crack concrete. Dante collapsed, dazed, and the hunter raised his blade for a killing blow. Elena didn't think, didn't plan, just reacted. Silver light exploded from her palms, so bright everyone had to shield their eyes. When it faded, the hunter was frozen. Literally frozen, encased in ice that glowed with moonlight. And not just him. Every hunter within 20 feet was frozen solid, trapped mid-motion, their weapons glittering with frost. The facility's lights flickered and died. Emergency backups kicked in, bathing everything in red. What did you just do? Celeste breathed. I don't know. Elena's vision was swimming. But we need to leave. Now. Before Her legs gave out. Arya caught her before she hit the ground. She's exhausted. Sophie would say, if she were here, burning through power like that has consequences. Can you walk? Dante asked, back in human form, blood trickling from a head wound. Maybe. Give me a second. We don't have a second. Vincent was at the hallway entrance watching for more hunters. The ice is already cracking. Those hunters won't stay frozen long. They ran. Elena half-carried between Arya and River, the freed wolves stumbling along behind them, the strike team forming a protective escort. They hit the stairs and climbed, 1 level, 2 levels back to ground floor. Celeste's external team was waiting with vehicles. Multiple vans and SUVs, enough to transport all the freed wolves. Go, 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 she shouted, helping load traumatized captives into vehicles. Elena ended up in the lead van with Dante, Marcus, Arya, and 5 of the rescued wolves. Through the rear window she could see the facility behind them, its windows glowing with that emergency red light. Then as they turned onto the main road, she saw figures emerging from the entrance, hunters, lots of them. And they were getting into their own vehicles. They're following us, she said weakly. I know. Dante was on the phone, coordinating with the other drivers. Everyone scatter. Take different routes. Don't lead them back to pack territory. We'll regroup at the safe house. The safe house was a property Vincent owned, a large cabin in the mountains warded and stocked for emergencies. It took 2 hours of evasive driving to reach it. And by the time they arrived, Elena was barely conscious. She woke hours later in an unfamiliar bed. Voices drifted up from downstairs, arguing voices, tense and worried. We can't just keep her here. The hunters know what she can do now. They'll hunt her relentlessly. That was Celeste. So we protect her. That's what packs do. Dante. With what? You're 20 wolves against every hunter in North America? Be realistic, Blackwood. I am being realistic. She's the most powerful weapon we have against them. She's not a weapon. She's a person. That was Arya, her young voice fierce. Elena felt a surge of affection through their pack bond. A person who just saved 29 wolves from hunter captivity, Vincent added. We can't abandon her now. I'm not suggesting we abandon her. I'm suggesting we face facts. What she did tonight, freezing those hunters, breaking nearly 30 bonds in under 2 hours, that kind of power will attract attention from more than just the hunters. The council will demand she be brought in for evaluation. Other packs will try to claim her. We've painted a target on her back that won't fade. Elena forced herself to sit up. Her body ached, her head pounded, but she needed to be part of this conversation. She made her way downstairs on shaky legs. The argument stopped the moment she appeared. All eyes turned to her, Dante, Marcus, Arya, River from her pack, Celeste and 3 of her wolves, Vincent and 2 of his. And scattered around the room, the rescued wolves watching with haunted eyes. We can't stop, Elena said into the silence. There are still dozens, maybe hundreds, of wolves in hunter facilities. We freed 29 tonight. That's good, but it's not enough. You nearly died tonight, Dante said gently. You used so much power you passed out. If we'd been separated, if the hunters had captured you. But they didn't. We succeeded. This time. What about next time? Or the time after that? His golden eyes were full of concern. Elena, I understand wanting to help, but you can't save everyone at the cost of yourself. Why not? Isn't that what alphas do? Put themselves at risk to protect their pack. You're not an alpha. No. I'm a Moonsinger, which apparently means I'm the only one who can break hunter bonds efficiently enough to make rescue operations viable. She looked around at the assembled wolves. I'm not saying we have to rescue everyone tonight or this week. But we can't stop. Not when we know they're suffering. One of the rescued wolves, a young man with dark skin and haunted eyes, spoke up. She's right. I was in that facility for 8 months. Every day they drained our magic, tested our limits, broke our minds. Every day I prayed someone would come. And tonight you did. His voice broke. Please don't stop. Don't let others suffer what I suffered just because it's dangerous or difficult. Other rescued wolves murmured agreement. And Elena felt it through the pack bond and beyond it, a resonance with these traumatized survivors. They'd been where she'd been, powerless, alone, afraid. The only difference was she'd gotten lucky, found a pack before the hunters found her. We'll continue the operations, Vincent said finally. But carefully. With better planning, more resources, proper support for Elena so she's not burning through all her power at once. Agreed, Celeste said, though she looked unhappy about it. But the council hearing is still scheduled. 3 days. We need a strategy for that too. I'll go, Elena said. Absolutely not, Dante growled. Not if I have 3 allied packs backing me. Not if I walk in there with proof that I'm using my abilities responsibly, that I'm freeing captive wolves, not causing chaos. She looked at Dante. You said we needed allies to make the council hesitate. We have allies now. Let's use them. The debate continued late into the night. By the time they'd hammered out a plan, dawn was breaking and Elena was so exhausted she could barely stand. But they had a plan. They would continue the rescue operations, carefully with proper support. They would attend the council hearing, but with the full backing of 4 allied packs and evidence of Elena's good works. And they would prepare for war because the hunters wouldn't let tonight's raid go unanswered. As they prepared to return to their respective territories, one of the rescued wolves approached Elena. It was the woman from the first cell she'd opened, middle-aged with graying hair and kind eyes. Thank you, the woman said quietly, for giving me back my life, my mind, my wolf. You're welcome. I'm sorry we couldn't get everyone. You got 29 of us. That's 29 who would still be trapped if not for you. The woman hesitated. I don't have a pack anymore. The hunters took me from mine months ago and I don't know if they even remember me. Would your alpha consider accepting more members? Elena looked at Dante, who'd been listening. He smiled. Cascade Ridge Pack welcomes anyone who needs sanctuary. You've suffered enough. It's time to heal. By the end of the day, 15 of the rescued wolves had requested to join Cascade Ridge Pack. Dante accepted all of them. That brought their numbers to 23. Still small by the standards of packs like Silver Moon, but growing. Becoming something real. That night, back at their own territory, Elena stood on the balcony again. Dante found her there, as he always seemed to when she needed him. 23 wolves, he said, leaning against the railing beside her. A month ago we were 7. My father would be shocked. Would he approve? Honestly, I have no idea. He believed in strength, in pack dominance, in traditional hierarchy. He gestured at the lodge below where new and old pack members were mingling over dinner. This is different. Messier, more chaotic. But good. But good. He turned to face her fully. You've changed everything, Elena. This pack, the regional politics, my entire understanding of what it means to be alpha. I don't know if I should thank you or blame you for the chaos. How about both? He laughed, then sobered. The council hearing. Are you sure about this? No. But I'm sure about us. About the pack, about doing what's right, even when it's dangerous. She took his hand. We'll face it together. Together, he agreed. They stayed on the balcony as the moon rose, waning now, just a thin crescent. In a few weeks, it would be full again, and Elena would face her third full moon as a wolf. Each one easier than the last, Sophie had promised. Each one more natural. But first they had a council hearing to survive. And Elena had a feeling that facing the council would be harder than facing any hunter. Chapter 7. The council chambers were located in Seattle, neutral territory that belonged to no single pack. The building itself was unassuming, a gray stone structure that could have been a courthouse or municipal office. But the moment Elena stepped through the entrance, she felt the weight of ancient magic pressing down on her. They're trying to intimidate you, Dante murmured, his hand finding hers. Don't let them. Easier said than done. The chambers were designed to make visitors feel small. Vaulted ceilings, dark wood paneling, a raised platform where 7 council members sat in judgment. The audience section was packed with representatives from packs across the Pacific Northwest, all come to witness the hearing. Elena spotted Counselor Winters among the 7, her expression cold and satisfied. The others were strangers, but their power was unmistakable. These were the wolves who shaped supernatural law, who decided life and death with a word. All rise for the accused, a council clerk announced. Accused. Not the wolf under review, or the petitioner. They'd already decided she was guilty of something. Elena walked to the center of the room, flanked by Dante on one side and Celeste on the other, a show of unity between allied packs. Vincent and May sat in the front row of the audience, their presence a silent promise of support. The head counselor, an ancient wolf with white hair and eyes like chips of ice, spoke first. Elena Cross, born designation unknown, bonded to Cascade Ridge Pack under Alpha Dante Blackwood. You stand before this council charged with reckless endangerment of supernatural secrecy, unauthorized interference with hunter operations, and unlawful use of extinct magical abilities. How do you plead? Not guilty, Elena said, keeping her voice steady. To all charges. Murmurs rippled through the audience. Apparently, most wolves simply accepted whatever the council decreed. You deny breaking hunter bindings on 20 rogue wolves? Winters demanded. I don't deny freeing them. I deny that it was unlawful. Those wolves were being held against their will, controlled through dark magic, used as weapons. I gave them back their free will. Rogues who committed crimes, Winters said, who were being held under legal authority granted by treaty between this council and the hunter organization. Legal authority to enslave? To strip away consciousness and force obedience. Elena felt her hands start to glow and force the power down. If that's legal, then your laws are wrong. The chamber erupted. Wolves shouting, council members calling for order, the ancient head counselor slamming his gavel repeatedly. You dare question council law? He demanded once silence was restored. I dare question any law that permits torture, Elena said. I've spoken to the wolves I freed. They describe months, years in some cases, of having their magic drained, their minds broken, their very essence harvested. If that's what your treaties allow, then yes, I question them. The treaty with the hunters is complex, another counselor said, a woman with kind eyes and gray-streaked hair. We cannot simply ignore centuries of diplomatic relationship because wolves are suffering? Elena interrupted. Why not? Isn't that exactly when you should intervene? You're young, the head counselor said, his tone dismissive. You don't understand the delicate balance. I understand that balance built on suffering isn't balance. It's cowardice. The temperature in the room dropped. Several counselors looked genuinely shocked that anyone would speak to them this way. Dante squeezed her hand, a warning through the pack bond. Don't push too hard. They're looking for an excuse. But Elena was tired of playing political games, tired of watching powerful wolves make excuses for injustice. Present your evidence, the head counselor said coldly. Support your claims of abuse or accept the charges against you. This was where their plan came into play. Vincent stood, carrying a folder thick with documentation. The Allied packs have compiled testimonies from 29 rescued wolves, all describing systematic abuse in hunter facilities. Medical examinations confirming magical depletion, psychological trauma, physical scarring, all admitted as evidence. He handed the folder to the council clerk, who passed it to the counselors. They read in silence, their expressions growing increasingly troubled. Additionally, May said, standing, during our infiltration operation last week, we obtained copies of hunter internal communications. They discuss harvest quotas, optimal extraction rates, and disposal methods for wolves who can no longer produce usable magic. This is not rehabilitation. This is industrialized exploitation. More folders, more evidence. The counselors read, and Elena watched their facades crack. Some looked genuinely disturbed. Others, like Winters, looked angry at being outmaneuvered. Even if we accept that some hunter facilities have exceeded their authority, Winters said, that doesn't excuse unauthorized use of Moonsinger abilities. Those powers were eradicated for a reason during the Purge Wars. What reason? Elena asked. Moonsingers were unstable. Dangerous. Their ability to break any bond, disrupt any magic, it made them threats to pack structure, to alpha authority, to the entire supernatural hierarchy. Or it made them threats to wolves who wanted to control others without question, Celeste said, speaking for the first time, her ice-blue eyes fixed on Winters. Moonsingers couldn't be dominated, couldn't be forced into submission through mate bonds or pack bonds or magical compulsion. That's what made them dangerous to tyrants, not to wolves. How dare you? The council wants to know if Elena Cross is dangerous, Celeste continued, her voice cutting. I've seen her in action. Yes, she's dangerous, to those who would enslave and abuse our kind. To everyone else she's hope. Proof that we can fight back against those who've held power over us for too long. The head counselor's eyes narrowed. You speak as though this council is the enemy, Alpha Celeste. I speak as someone who's tired of watching good wolves suffer while this council wrings its hands over diplomatic niceties. The hunters have been abusing their treaty authority for decades. Everyone knows it. But addressing it would be inconvenient, so we all look away and pretend everything's fine. Celeste's expression was fierce. Until someone like Elena comes along and refuses to pretend. Supporting her makes you complicit in her crimes, Winters said. Then we're all complicit, Vincent said, standing with Celeste. Redwood Pack stands with Cascade Ridge Pack and Silver Moon Pack in defense of the Moonsinger. As does Stormwind Pack, May added, rising. The room exploded again. This wasn't just one problematic wolf. This was 4 major packs directly challenging council authority. The political implications were staggering. The head counselor called for another recess. We will deliberate. All parties will remain in the building until we reach a decision. They were escorted to a waiting room, plush but clearly designed to keep them contained. Elena collapsed into a chair, her hands shaking from adrenaline. That went better than expected, Marcus said. He'd been sitting in the audience but had joined them during the recess. Better? Arya looked at him incredulously. They basically accused us all of treason. Yes, but they're actually reading the evidence instead of dismissing it outright. That's progress. Or they're looking for ways to twist it against us, Dante said grimly. Challenging the council openly like that, it's unprecedented. They can't let it stand without consequences. What kind of consequences? Elena asked. Best case, they censure us officially but take no real action, afraid of pushing 4 allied packs into open rebellion. Worst case, he stopped pacing. They make an example of you. Public execution or permanent binding to demonstrate that council authority cannot be challenged. Elena's stomach dropped. They wouldn't. The evidence is clear. The hunters are committing atrocities. Evidence doesn't matter if accepting it means admitting the council has been complicit through inaction, Celeste said. That's why they'll either embrace reform or double down on protecting the status quo. There's no middle ground anymore. They waited for 3 hours, long enough for Elena's nerves to fray completely, for worst-case scenarios to play out endlessly in her mind. Through the pack bond, she felt her packmates' anxiety, 23 wolves back at territory, waiting to hear if their Moonsinger would return or be taken from them. Finally, the clerk came to retrieve them. The council chambers felt different now, heavier, more tense. The audience section had filled even more. Word had spread, and it seemed every pack in the region had sent representatives to witness this. Elena Cross, the head counselor, said, "This council has reviewed the evidence presented and deliberated on the charges against you." Elena's heart hammered. Dante's hand found hers again, his grip tight. "The charges of reckless endangerment and unauthorized interference are dismissed. The evidence suggests you acted in defense of wolves suffering unlawful detention and abuse." Pause. However, the charge of unlawful use of extinct magical abilities stands. Moonsinger abilities were not eradicated during the Purge Wars by accident. They were systematically eliminated because their existence destabilized pack structure and threatened supernatural society as a whole. Allowing a Moonsinger to operate freely sets a dangerous precedent. "Then what do you propose?" Elena asked, her voice surprisingly steady. "You will submit to magical restriction, a binding that limits your Moonsinger abilities to use only with explicit council approval. You may remain with your pack, live freely, but your power will be controlled, used only when and how the council deems appropriate." "Absolutely not," Dante snarled. But Elena was staring at the head counselor, understanding dawning. "You want to turn me into a weapon you control. Just like the hunters do with their captive wolves. We want to ensure you cannot destabilize supernatural society by enslaving me to your will." Elena felt her power surge, hands glowing silver. "I freed wolves from that kind of control. I won't accept it myself." "Then you leave us no choice." The head counselor stood. "Elena Cross, for the crime of possessing and refusing to restrict unlawful magical abilities, this council sentences you to permanent custody pending." He never finished the sentence. The chamber doors burst open. Wolves poured in, not representatives or observers, but the rescued wolves from their raid. 29 of them, led by the woman Elena had freed first, the one who joined Cascade Ridge Pack. "We invoke ancient law," the woman called out. "Right of testimony by the affected." The head counselor's face went white. "That law hasn't been invoked in centuries." "But it still stands," the kind-eyed female counselor said, leaning forward with interest. "Ancient law states that wolves directly affected by a case have the right to testify before judgment is rendered." "Have you rendered final judgment, High Counselor?" He hadn't. He'd said sentences you, but hadn't completed the formal declaration. "We have the right," the woman insisted. "We are wolves who were directly affected by Elena Cross's actions. We demand to be heard." The High Counselor looked furious, but council law was absolute. "Very well. You have 5 minutes total, for all of you." The 29 wolves spread through the chamber. And one by one they spoke. "She gave me back my mind. I was going to die in that facility. She saved my life. 8 months. I was bound for 8 months. Every day was torture. She ended it in seconds. The hunters called us specimens. Resources to be harvested. She called us wolves. People worthy of freedom. I don't care what your laws say about Moonsingers. I care that she saw me suffering and chose to act when no one else would." Their voices overlapped, creating a chorus of testimony, not rehearsed or coordinated, just honest accounts of trauma and rescue and gratitude. "I had a mate," one man said, his voice breaking. "He came looking for me when the hunters took me. They killed him. Told me it was my fault for being weak enough to be captured. The Moonsinger said it wasn't my fault. Said I deserved to be free. She's the first wolf in months who treated me like I mattered." Elena felt tears streaming down her face. She hadn't realized, hadn't fully understood the impact of what she'd done. To her, she'd just been breaking magical chains. But to these wolves, she'd restored their humanity, their dignity, their hope. When the 5 minutes ended, the chamber was silent. Even Winters looked troubled. The kind-eyed counselor spoke first. "High Counselor, I move that we reconsider the sentence in light of this testimony." "Seconded," another counselor said immediately. The High Counselor looked around at his fellow council members. Whatever he saw there made his expression harden further. "Very well. The sentence is suspended pending further review. Elena Cross, you are free to return to your pack. But this matter is not closed. The council will discuss appropriate measures for managing a Moonsinger in modern supernatural society. It wasn't a victory, but it wasn't a loss either. Elena had bought time to prove herself, time to rescue more wolves, time to build support for the kind of change supernatural society desperately needed. Court is adjourned. They left quickly before the council could change their mind. The rescued wolves followed them out, forming a protective escort. Outside the building, other wolves approached, not hostile but curious. Word had spread. Elena Cross, the Moonsinger who challenged the council, who freed captive wolves who refused to be controlled. We're going to have a problem, Celeste said as they reached their vehicles. Every wolf in the region now knows what you can do. Some will seek your help. Others will try to eliminate you before you become too powerful. And the hunters, Vincent added grimly, they're going to come after you with everything they have. Let them come, Elena said. She felt different now, stronger, more certain. I'm done hiding what I am. If being a Moonsinger means I can help wolves like these, she gestured at the rescued wolves surrounding them, then that's exactly what I'll be. The drive back to Cascade Ridge territory was quiet. Elena dozed against Dante's shoulder, exhausted from the emotional roller coaster of the hearing. Through the pack bond, she felt the others' relief, their pride, their determination. They arrived after dark to find the entire pack waiting. The moment Elena stepped out of the van, she was mobbed, wolves hugging her, thanking her, celebrating. Even the newest members who barely knew her felt the victory through the bond. You stood up to the council, one of them said, awe in their voice. No one does that. Someone should, Elena replied. That night, the pack held an impromptu celebration. Someone produced instruments. Apparently, Quinn had been a musician before his accident, and music filled the lodge. Wolves danced, sang, told stories. The rescued wolves slowly relaxed, their trauma beginning to heal in the warmth of pack acceptance. Elena found herself unable to sleep despite her exhaustion. She stood on her balcony watching her pack, and it was her pack now, truly, celebrate below. You did it, Dante said, appearing beside her with 2 drinks. Changed the council's mind. Saved yourself and 29 others. We did it, Elena corrected. All of us. The allied packs, the rescued wolves. I was just the catalyst. You're still remarkable. He handed her a drink. To the Moonsinger who refuses to be controlled. To the Alpha who gave her a home. They drank, standing close, watching the celebration below. Through the pack bond, Elena felt the contentment of her wolves, the happiness of those who'd been rescued, the hope that maybe, just maybe, things could change. What happens now? She asked. Now. Dante pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her. Now we keep fighting. Keep rescuing wolves. Keep challenging unjust laws. And we do it together. Together, Elena agreed. Below, someone howled, a celebration howl taken up by the others. The sound echoed through the forest, carrying for miles. A declaration. A promise. A warning. Cascade Ridge pack was small no longer. And their Moonsinger was just getting started. Chapter 8. The celebrations lasted well into the night, but Elena woke early the next morning to urgent voices downstairs. She threw on clothes and hurried down to find Dante, Celeste, Vincent, and May gathered around the kitchen table, their expressions grim. What's wrong? Elena asked. The hunters struck back, Vincent said, pushing a tablet toward her. 3 facilities, simultaneous attacks last night. They killed every captive wolf inside rather than risk us rescuing them. Elena's stomach dropped. The screen showed news reports, fires, explosions, authorities claiming gas leaks or electrical malfunctions. But she could read between the lines. The hunters had destroyed evidence and murdered witnesses. How many? She whispered. Best estimate, 47 wolves. May's voice was tight with controlled rage. They burned the facilities to the ground with the captives still inside. This is my fault. Elena sank into a chair. They did this because of what I did. Because I freed those wolves. They did this because they're monsters, Dante said fiercely. Don't take responsibility for their atrocities. But if you hadn't, those 47 wolves would still be suffering in captivity, being drained and tortured, Celeste interrupted. At least this way their deaths were quick. Relatively speaking. It was cold comfort. Sarah felt sick thinking about the wolves who died because the hunters would rather commit mass murder than lose their captives. There's more, Vincent said grimly. The council issued a statement this morning. They're blaming the facility fires on rogue supernatural activity, and calling for increased cooperation with hunter organizations to maintain order. They're using this as justification to strengthen hunter authority, May translated, making us look like the problem instead of addressing the real issue. So what do we do? Elena asked. The four alphas exchanged glances. Finally Dante spoke. We hit them harder. Faster. We rescue as many wolves as we can before they can execute them. And we make sure the world, supernatural and human, knows exactly what the hunters are doing. You're talking about going public, Celeste said. Exposing supernatural existence to humans. I'm talking about documenting hunter atrocities and making sure other supernatural creatures see the truth. The council can spin narratives all they want, but they can't deny video evidence, survivor testimony, hard proof of systematic abuse. That's incredibly dangerous, May warned. If word spreads that we're gathering evidence against the hunters, they'll escalate. Try to eliminate us before we can expose them, Vincent finished. They're already trying to eliminate us. Might as well make it count. Over the next week they launched a coordinated campaign. May's stealth specialists infiltrated hunter facilities, planting cameras and recording devices. Vincent's tech-savvy wolves created secure servers to store the evidence. Celeste's pack provided security for witnesses willing to testify. And Elena trained. Sophie pushed her hard, teaching her to use her Moonsinger abilities with more precision and less energy expenditure. You're powerful, Sophie said after Elena successfully broke 3 simulated bonds while maintaining a shield. But power without control is just chaos. You need to be surgical, not explosive. Marcus worked on her combat skills, teaching her how to fight while using her abilities, how to defend herself if separated from the pack. The hunters will target you specifically, he said. You need to be able to survive alone if necessary. And Dante helped her explore the limits of her Moonsinger senses. She discovered she could detect magical bindings from nearly a mile away, could differentiate between different types of magic, could even sense when wolves were in distress or danger. It's like the moon itself is speaking through you, Dante said one evening as they practiced in the forest. Every wolf is connected to lunar cycles, but you're connected to something deeper. The source, maybe, of what makes us what we are. That's terrifying. That's extraordinary. He pulled her close. You're extraordinary. Their relationship had shifted since the council hearing. They still hadn't formalized anything. Werewolf courtship involved rituals and traditions that took time, but everyone in the pack knew they were together. Elena felt it through the bond, the way their emotions intertwined, the way they instinctively moved as a unit. On the 10th day after the hearing, they received intelligence about a major hunter facility in eastern Washington. Unlike the smaller operations they'd been targeting, this one held over 100 captive wolves and was heavily guarded. It's a trap, Celeste said flatly when they gathered to discuss the potential raid. They know we're coming. They're probably counting on it. Probably, Dante agreed. But we can't leave 100 wolves to die just because it's dangerous. So we go in smart, Vincent said. Multiple teams, coordinated timing, backup plans for our backup plans. They spent 3 days planning. Elena studied floor plans until she had them memorized, practiced breaking bonds faster and more efficiently, prepared herself mentally for what they might find. The night before the raid, she couldn't sleep. She stood in the forest clearing where she'd first shifted, looking up at the moon, full now, bright and accusatory. You're thinking too much, River said, appearing beside her. They'd become close over the past weeks, bonded by their shared experience of trauma and rescue. I'm thinking about all the ways this could go wrong. So am I. But I'm also thinking about all the wolves we might save. River smiled. You gave me back my life, Elena. Let me help you save others. You're coming on the raid? Sophie cleared me for field work yesterday. I'm not as strong as some of the others, but I know those facilities. I can help navigate, warn you about traps. They paused. I need to do this. For the wolves who didn't escape. For the person I was before the hunters broke me. Elena understood that, the need to reclaim power, to transform trauma into purpose. Okay. But you stay close to the team, follow orders, and if things go bad, I run. I know. River's smile was sad. I've gotten very good at running. The raid was scheduled for dawn. They assembled in the pre-dawn darkness, 40 wolves total, split into 4 teams. Celeste would lead the main assault. Vincent would secure the perimeter. May would handle electronic surveillance and communications. And Dante's team, including Elena, would focus on freeing the captives. They traveled in silence, a convoy of vehicles moving through empty highways. When they reached their staging area, A rest stop 3 miles from the facility, Elena felt her Moonsinger senses flare. She could feel them already, the captive wolves, their pain and fear like distant screams. "There are so many," she whispered. "Can you do this?" Dante asked gently. "I have to." They approached on foot once they were within a mile, moving through forest in wolf form, all except Elena, who needed her hands free. The facility was massive, a sprawling complex disguised as a warehouse. But Elena's senses painted a different picture. Layers of magical wards, guard rotations, and at the center, a concentration of bound wolves so dense it made her physically ill. "The wards are stronger here," she told Dante. "I can break them, but it'll take time and a lot of power. Then we buy you time." Dante shifted back to human, signaling the other team leaders. "Everyone ready?" They moved on his signal. Celeste's team hit the main entrance with explosive force, drawing guard attention. Vincent's wolves secured escape routes and cut power lines. May's team took out communications, preventing the hunters from calling for backup. And Dante's team, with Elena at the center, approached the northern wall where her senses told her the captives were concentrated. The ward was brutal, designed not just to keep people out but to hurt anyone who tried to break through. Elena placed her hands against the invisible barrier and felt it bite, magic like barbed wire tearing at her power. "I've got you," Dante said, his hand on her shoulder. Pack bond strengthening her. Through the bond, she felt the others lending their strength. Sophie's steadiness, Marcus's fierce determination, Aria's bright hope, River's quiet courage. All 23 Cascade Ridge Pack members, united in purpose. Elena gathered that collective strength and drove it into the ward like a spear. The barrier shattered. Alarms screamed. Hunters poured from interior buildings, armed with silver weapons and binding magic. The battle was immediate and brutal, wolves and hunters clashing in a chaos of fur and blood and screams. But Elena had one job: free the captives. She ran through the breach in the ward, River and 2 other wolves flanking her. The captive holding area was underground, accessed through a service entrance River remembered from their own captivity. The stairs down were steep and dark. At the bottom, a reinforced door blocked their way. Elena blasted it open with a pulse of moonlight and stepped into hell. The chamber was enormous, lined wall to wall with cells. In each cell, wolves, some in human form, some shifted, all bound with layer upon layer of hunter magic. The bindings were worse than anything Elena had encountered before, designed not just to control but to cause constant pain as a deterrent against resistance. "Oh God," River whispered. "There are so many. Over 100 cells. Over 100 tortured wolves." "Start on that end," Elena told River and their companions. "I'll work from here. Meet in the middle." She ran to the first cell. The wolf inside, a young woman barely out of her teens, stared at her with empty eyes. The bindings around her weren't just magical chains. They were corruption, darkness eating away at her very essence. Elena grabbed the bonds and pulled. The magic fought back viciously, burning her hands, trying to corrupt her own power. She gritted her teeth and pulled harder. The bonds shattered, and the young woman screamed, a sound of agony and relief combined. "You're free," Elena gasped. "Can you walk?" The woman nodded mutely, tears streaming down her face. "Follow the wolves upstairs. They'll get you out." Elena moved to the next cell and the next. Each bond she broke drained her a little more, but she couldn't stop. Wouldn't stop. These wolves had suffered long enough. She'd freed 23 when the hunters found her. They came down the stairs in force, not the young security guards she'd encountered before, but trained combat hunters, their black eyes gleaming with malevolent intelligence. "The Moonsinger," one of them said, his voice oily and satisfied. "We were hoping you'd come personally." Elena's wolves moved to intercept, but the hunters were faster. One threw something, not a weapon but a sphere of pure darkness. It exploded mid-air, and suddenly Elena couldn't feel her pack bond. Couldn't sense the other wolves. Couldn't access her Moonsinger abilities. "Nullification field," the hunter explained. "Specifically designed for you. We've been studying your power since the first facility raid. Learning your patterns, your limitations." He smiled. "Did you really think we wouldn't prepare for your return?" Elena tried to summon her power, but it was like reaching for something through thick glass. She could see it, feel it, but couldn't quite touch it. The hunters advanced. Her wolves fought to protect her, but they were outnumbered, and without her abilities to break bonds, they were just ordinary wolves against magically enhanced humans. River went down first, hit by whatever those taser weapons delivered. Then the others, one by one, until Elena stood alone, facing 5 hunters. "Come quietly," the lead hunter said. Surrender and we'll let your pack leave with the wolves you've already freed. Resist and we kill every wolf in this building including you. Through the muffled pack bond, Elena felt Dante's panic. He was fighting his way toward her, but he was too far away. Celeste and Vincent were engaged with their own battles. No one was coming to save her. Which meant she had to save herself. The nullification field suppressed her power, yes. But it didn't eliminate it, just contained it, trapped it inside her like water behind a dam. Elena could feel the pressure building, her Moonsinger abilities straining against the magical barrier. What if she stopped trying to reach through the field and instead pushed against it? Well, the hunter demanded. What's your answer? Elena looked at the captive wolves watching from their cells, at River lying unconscious, at the hunters who thought they'd finally trapped her. She stopped fighting the nullification field and instead poured all her power into it. Not trying to escape but trying to explode it from within. The field resisted, designed to contain and suppress. But Moonsingers were made to break bonds, to shatter barriers, to free what was trapped. Even if what was trapped was themselves. The field detonated like a bomb. Pure moonlight exploded outward, so bright every hunter screamed and fell back, their enhanced senses overwhelmed. The remaining cell doors burst open, their locks destroyed by the surge of power. And every bond on every remaining captive wolf shattered simultaneously. Elena collapsed, completely drained. But she'd done it. Freed them all. The chamber filled with rescued wolves, confused and traumatized but free. They looked at the hunters who'd tortured them, at the wolves who'd come to save them, at Elena kneeling in the center of it all, surrounded by shimmering moonlight. And then they attacked. The hunters didn't stand a chance. Over 80 wolves, newly freed and filled with righteous fury, descended on their captors. It was brutal and swift and probably more mercy than the hunters deserved. When it was over, Elena's packmates were helping her to her feet. River was limping but alive. The rescued wolves were milling around, uncertain what to do with their sudden freedom. "We need to move," Dante said, appearing at Elena's side. "The facility's on fire, Celeste's team set charges. We have maybe 5 minutes before this whole place comes down." They ran, all of them rescuers and rescued packed together, supporting the weak and injured, up the stairs, through the burning facility, out into the dawn light where vehicles were waiting. Elena was the last one out. She turned back to look at the facility, flames consuming everything the hunters had built. Evidence destroyed, yes. But also a prison demolished, a place of suffering erased from existence. "Elena," Dante called. "Come on." She ran to join her pack, leaving the fire behind. They'd saved 93 wolves. The largest rescue operation in modern supernatural history. And Elena had survived. Barely. Chapter 9. The safe house was chaos. 93 rescued wolves, many injured, all traumatized, crammed into a space designed for maybe 30. Sophie and the other healers worked frantically, triaging the worst cases while trying to keep everyone calm. Elena sat on the floor in a corner, too exhausted to move. She'd burned through so much power breaking all those bonds that she could barely keep her eyes open. Every muscle ached. Her hands were covered in burns from the corrupted hunter magic. "Drink this," Sophie said, pressing a cup into Elena's hands. "Some kind of herbal tea that smelled medicinal. It'll help replenish your energy. You depleted yourself dangerously." "Worth it," Elena mumbled. "Maybe. But you won't be able to help anyone if you burn yourself out completely." Sophie checked Elena's pupils, her pulse. "You need rest. Real rest, not just a few hours of sleep. You've done 3 major magical operations in 2 weeks. Your body can't sustain that pace." But there wasn't time for rest. The rescued wolves needed her, not for magic but for reassurance. Many approached her throughout the day, offering halting thanks, sharing their stories, asking if this was real or just another hunter trick. "It's real," Elena told each one. "You're free. You're safe. And you'll never go back to those places." One woman, older, with scars covering her arms, broke down crying when Elena spoke to her. 5 years, she sobbed. "I was in there for 5 years. I thought I'd die there. Thought everyone had forgotten me." "No one forgot you," Elena said, though she suspected that wasn't entirely true. The supernatural community had failed these wolves, had looked away while they suffered. And now you have a chance to heal. To live. What if I don't know how anymore? What if I'm too broken? Elena took the woman's scarred hands in her own. "Then you'll learn. With help, with time. You're not alone anymore." By evening, the logistical nightmare of what to do with 93 displaced wolves became clear. Most had no packs to return to. Their original packs had either disbanded or given them up for dead. They needed places to stay, food, medical care, counseling. We can take 20, Vincent said during an emergency alpha meeting. Maybe 25 if we crowd people. Silver Moon can manage 30, Celeste offered. Though my pack members won't be happy about the sudden population increase. Stormwind will take 15, May said. That left 28 wolves unaccounted for. Everyone looked at Dante. We'll take them, he said. All of them if necessary. Dante, you already have 23 pack members, Sophie protested. We don't have the infrastructure for 51 wolves. Then we'll build it. Expand the territory. Construct new cabins. Figure it out as we go. He looked around the table. These wolves were abandoned once. I won't do it again. Elena felt a surge of love through their bond. This was why she'd chosen this pack. Because when faced with an impossible situation, Dante chose compassion over practicality. We'll help, Vincent said. All 3 allied packs. Resources, labor, whatever you need to accommodate them. And training, Celeste added. Many of those wolves were captive for years. They'll need to relearn how to function in pack society, how to control their shifts, basic survival skills. Plans were made late into the night. But one issue remained unresolved, the council. They'll hear about this raid within hours, May said. 93 freed wolves, a destroyed hunter facility, evidence of our organized resistance. They can't ignore it. They'll probably try to spin it as rogue wolf activity again, Vincent predicted. Let them try. Dante pulled up his phone showing a video. May's team got footage. Clear evidence of captive wolves, hunter torture equipment, the whole operation. We're releasing it to every supernatural community forum, every pack communication channel. By morning, every wolf in North America will know the truth. That's a declaration of war against the hunters, Celeste said. Good. They declared war on us centuries ago. We're just finally fighting back. The video went live at midnight. By dawn, the supernatural world was in an uproar. Pack forums exploded with discussion. Alphas who'd been neutral suddenly demanded council action. Wolves who'd lost pack members to mysterious disappearances started demanding investigations. The hunter organization's carefully maintained image of necessary security providers crumbled as evidence of systematic torture spread. The council called an emergency session. They want all 4 allied alphas to appear, Dante said, reading the summons. Today. Immediately. It's a trap, Marcus said. Probably. But we have to go. Dante looked at Elena. You need to come too. They'll want to question you about your abilities, about the raids. I'll be there. No. Sophie stepped forward. Elena is in no condition to face the council. She's magically depleted, physically exhausted, emotionally overwrought. She needs rest, not more interrogation. Sophie's right, Celeste said, surprising everyone. The Moonsinger is our most valuable asset. We shouldn't risk her unnecessarily. Let the alphas handle the council. But Elena shook her head. They'll use my absence against us. Say I'm hiding because I did something wrong. And honestly, she stood, ignoring her protesting muscles. I want to face them. I want to look them in the eye and dare them to call what we did wrong. The council chambers felt different this time. The audience section was packed beyond capacity, wolves standing in the aisles, pressing against walls. Word had spread. Everyone wanted to witness this confrontation. The 7 council members looked furious. Even the kind-eyed woman who'd shown sympathy before seemed angry now. You have started a war, the High Counselor said without preamble. Your raids, your propaganda, your blatant disregard for diplomatic treaties. You've destabilized centuries of careful balance. We freed 93 wolves from illegal captivity, Dante countered. We exposed systematic abuse. We did what you should have done years ago. You had no authority. We had every authority. Those wolves were pack members, community members, people who deserved protection. You abandoned them. We didn't. The chamber erupted. Wolves in the audience shouting agreement. Council members calling for order. The whole system teetering on the edge of chaos. Councillor Winters stood, her voice cutting through the noise. This council has received formal complaints from the Hunter organization. They claim you destroyed 3 facilities, killed over 20 of their personnel, and stole valuable research subjects. Research subjects? Elena stood, her voice shaking with rage. They're people. Wolves. Not research subjects. Legally, rogues under Hunter custody are. Legally, you're complicit in torture. Elena's hands started glowing and she didn't try to stop them. I've seen what happens in those facilities. I felt the bindings, the pain, the systematic destruction of wolf consciousness. You can hide behind treaties and diplomacy all you want, but you know what's happening. You've always known. You just didn't care enough to stop it. How dare you? How dare I? How dare you? Silver light pulsed from Elena's hands. You're supposed to lead us, protect us. Instead, you make deals with monsters and look away while wolves suffer. Well, I'm not looking away anymore. None of us are. The High Counselor's expression was thunderous. You will stand down or what? You'll execute me? Bind me? Add me to the list of wolves who disappeared for being inconvenient. Elena stepped forward. I'm a Moonsinger. The last one. You can't control me and you can't make me disappear without starting a civil war. So stop threatening and start acting like leaders. Silence fell. Everyone stared at her. This young wolf who'd been unknown a month ago, now challenging the most powerful governing body in supernatural society. The kind-eyed counselor spoke softly. What would you have us do? Investigate the hunter facilities. All of them. Inspect their operations. Review their practices. Hold them accountable for abuse. Elena looked around at the 7 council members. And if you find evidence of systematic torture, which you will, you terminate the treaties. You strip them of authority. You tell them they can't prey on our kind anymore. And if the hunters refuse, if they fight back, then we fight them together the way we should have been doing all along. Another counselor, an older man with gray hair, leaned forward. You're asking us to start a war we might not win. I'm asking you to end a war that's been waged against us for centuries. The hunters won't stop unless we make them stop. Appeasement doesn't work with predators. Vincent stood. Redwood Pack supports formal investigation of hunter facilities. As does Silver Moon, Celeste added. And Stormwind, May said. And Cascade Ridge, Dante finished. The High Counselor looked at the 4 allied alphas, at Elena glowing with barely controlled power, at the packed audience of wolves watching to see if their leaders would finally act. This council will deliberate, he said finally. All parties are dismissed. Outside the chambers, they were mobbed by wolves wanting to shake their hands, pledge support, share their own stories of loved ones lost to hunter facilities. The rescued wolves' testimony had sparked something, anger, yes, but also hope that change might finally be possible. That went better than expected, Marcus said as they pushed through the crowd toward their vehicles. It went perfectly, Celeste corrected. The council can't ignore this now. Too many witnesses, too much public pressure. They could still decide against us, May warned. Then we fight without council approval, Vincent said. 4 packs is just the beginning. After that video release, I've had inquiries from at least a dozen other packs wanting to join the alliance. They were almost to the vehicles when a figure stepped out of the shadows. Not a council member or another alpha, but a hunter. The same one from the warehouse, the one whose facility they just destroyed. His expensive suit was gone, replaced with tactical gear. His black eyes blazed with hatred. You think you've won, he said. You've only made things worse for yourselves. The hunter organization has resources you can't imagine. Allies you don't know about. We've been doing this for centuries. You're just wolves playing at revolution. We're wolves fighting for freedom, Elena corrected. There's a difference. Freedom? The hunter laughed. You're animals pretending to be people. You need to be controlled, managed, put in your place. That's what we do. That's what we've always done. And we've tolerated it long enough. Dante moved protectively in front of Elena. Tell your organization the old rules don't apply anymore. They can negotiate with the council for new terms, or they can face every wolf in the Pacific Northwest united against them. You're outnumbered, outgunned, outmatched. Maybe. But we're not alone anymore. Elena looked past the hunter at the crowd of wolves behind them, hundreds now, drawn by word of the confrontation. And we're done being afraid. The hunter followed her gaze, saw the assembled wolves, and his expression faltered. This isn't over. No, Elena agreed. It's just beginning. He disappeared back into the shadows, but everyone felt it, the shift. War was coming. Real war, not just skirmishes and raids. The hunters would bring everything they had, and the wolves would have to be ready. That night, back at Cascade Ridge territory, the pack gathered. Not just the original members or the recently rescued, but everyone. 51 wolves now, an actual pack, a community. Things are about to get harder, Dante told them honestly. The hunters will strike back. The council might not support us. Some of you might die in the fights ahead. No one left. No one even flinched. But we're together, he continued. And together we're stronger than we've ever been. So if you want to stay, if you want to fight, welcome. Your pack. Your family. And we protect our own. A howl rose, Arya starting it, others joining in. Soon all 51 wolves were howling, a sound that echoed through the forest and carried for miles. Let the hunters hear. Let the council hear. Let everyone hear. The wolves were done hiding and they were ready for war. Elena stood on the balcony, Dante beside her, watching their pack below. Through the bond, she felt them, 51 individual voices, all singing the same song of defiance and hope. 51 wolves, Dante said softly. A month ago we were 7. My father would be shocked. Would he approve? Honestly, I have no idea. He believed in strength, in pack dominance, in traditional hierarchy. He gestured at the lodge below where new and old pack members were mingling, sharing food and stories. This is different. Messier more chaotic. But good. But good. He turned to face her fully. You've changed everything, Elena. This pack, the regional politics, my entire understanding of what it means to be alpha. I don't know if I should thank you or blame you for the chaos. How about both? He laughed, then sobered. The hunters won't stop now. They'll come with everything they have. They'll try to break us, to make an example of us. Let them try. Elena felt the silver light humming beneath her skin, not depleted anymore but building, growing stronger. We'll be ready. Below, River approached Quinn, the two of them talking quietly. Arya was teaching some of the younger rescued wolves a card game. Marcus had his arm around Claire, the shy woman who'd made him blush so easily. Sophie was bandaging a rescued wolf's hand while explaining proper wound care. Family. Community. Home. We've built something worth fighting for, Elena said. Something worth protecting. We have. Dante pulled her close. And whatever comes next, hunters, council, whatever, we'll face it together. Together, Elena agreed. The moon shone down on Cascade Ridge territory, blessing the wolves who'd dared to fight for freedom, who'd refused to accept injustice, who'd believed that even broken things could heal if given time and love and community. And somewhere in the night, in a facility they hadn't found yet, another captive wolf felt a spark of hope. Help was coming. The Moonsinger was awake and she was done letting her people suffer. Chapter 10. 3 weeks after the massive facility raid, intelligence reached them about something the hunters called the Harvest. It's their annual event, May explained, projecting images onto the lodge wall. Like a trade show for supernatural creatures. They showcase their inventory, captured wolves, vampires, witches, and sell them to the highest bidders. Black market collectors, dark magic practitioners, anyone willing to pay. Elena felt sick. When? 5 days from now. And according to our sources, they're planning something special this year. A demonstration of Moonsinger power. Everyone turned to look at Elena. They don't have a Moonsinger, Dante said slowly. Unless they're planning to capture one at the event itself, Vincent finished. This is the trap we've been waiting for. They're using the other captive wolves as bait to draw Elena in. Then it's working, Elena said. How many wolves are we talking about? At least 200. Maybe more. They've been gathering captives from facilities across the country, bringing them all to one central location. Where? May highlighted a location on the map. Here. An abandoned military installation in eastern Oregon. Remote, heavily fortified, and according to our intel, protected by wards designed specifically to counter Moonsinger abilities. So they can capture Elena, Marcus said. This whole thing is a setup to get her. Probably, Celeste agreed. But it's also an opportunity. 200 captive wolves in one place. If we could free them all. We'd cripple the hunter organization permanently, Vincent said. Without their captive stock, without the magic they harvest, they'd have no leverage, no income, no power base. And we'd save 200 lives, River added quietly. 200 wolves who are right now going through what I went through. What all of us went through. They gestured at the other rescued wolves gathered in the lodge. We can't abandon them just because it's dangerous. Elena felt the pack bond thrumming with emotion. Fear, yes, everyone was afraid. But also determination. These wolves had been rescued themselves. They understood what was at stake. I'll go, she said. Not because it's what the hunters want, but because it's what those captive wolves need. Someone has to free them, and I'm the only one who can break bonds efficiently enough to make this work. Not alone you won't, Dante said firmly. If you go, we all go. The entire Allied force. We hit them with everything we have. Over the next 4 days, They assembled the largest supernatural military operation in modern history. All 4 allied packs mobilized: Cascade Ridge's 51 wolves, Silver Moon's 63, Redwood's 57, Stormwind's 49. Plus volunteers from a dozen smaller packs who joined after seeing the video evidence. 312 wolves, united against the hunters. They trained constantly. Combat formations, extraction protocols, magical countermeasures. Sophie worked with Elena to develop techniques for breaking multiple bonds simultaneously while maintaining shields. Marcus drilled everyone on protective formations designed to keep Elena safe while she worked. And every night, Elena stood on her balcony and stared at the moon, waning now toward new, and wondered if she'd see it again after this battle. Having doubts. Dante joined her on the 3rd night as he always did. "I'm terrified," Elena admitted. "What if I'm not strong enough? What if I get all these wolves killed for nothing? Then we die fighting for something that matters instead of living as slaves." He took her hand. "But I don't think you'll fail. I've seen what you can do. I felt your power through our bond. You're stronger than you know. I wish I had your confidence." "You don't need confidence. You just need courage. And you've proven you have that." He pulled her close. "Elena, whatever happens tomorrow, I want you to know that loving you, building this pack with you, fighting for freedom alongside you, it's been the greatest honor of my life." "Dante, let me finish." His golden eyes were intense in the moonlight. "If we survive this, I'm going to properly court you. Full werewolf tradition. And then I'm going to ask you to be my mate. Bonded for life. But if we don't survive, I needed you to know how I feel. Needed you to know that you changed my world, made me believe that one wolf really can make a difference." Elena kissed him, putting everything she couldn't say into that moment. Love and fear and desperate hope all tangled together. When they finally broke apart, both had tears on their faces. "We're going to survive," Elena said fiercely. "We're going to free those wolves, end this war, and build the life we deserve. All of us. Promise. Promise." The night before the battle, the entire assembled force gathered at a neutral location, a large clearing in the Cascade foothills. 312 wolves, all standing together under the stars. Dante addressed them from a natural outcropping that served as a stage. "Tomorrow we attack the heart of the hunter organization. We face an enemy that has hunted our kind for centuries, that has bound us and broken us and treated us like animals to be collected. They expect us to be afraid. They expect us to fight as scattered packs, divided and weak." He paused, his voice carrying across the assembled wolves. "They're wrong. We are united. We are strong. And we are done being prey." A howl rose from the crowd, one wolf, then another, then all of them. The sound was deafening, triumphant, defiant. "Tomorrow we free our people. Tomorrow we show the hunters that wolves are not creatures to be controlled. We are a force of nature. We are the moon's children. And we are coming for them." The howling intensified, shaking the very trees. Elena felt it through the pack bond and beyond. 312 wolves, all connected in this moment, all burning with the same purpose. They could do this. They would do this. The hunter installation was even more forbidding than the intelligence suggested. Tall fences topped with silver wire, guard towers at every corner, magical wards layered so thick Elena could feel them from a mile away. And inside, 200 captive wolves, their presence like a beacon of suffering. The attack began at dawn. Vincent's team hit the power grid, plunging the installation into darkness. Celeste's wolves took out the guard towers with coordinated strikes. May's tech specialists hacked the electronic systems, opening gates and disabling automated defenses. And Elena, protected by 50 wolves including Dante, Marcus, Arya, and River, approached the main ward. It was the strongest magical barrier she'd ever encountered. Not just designed to keep people out, but specifically crafted to trap Moonsinger abilities. The moment her power touched it, she felt it trying to absorb her magic, drain it, turn it against her. "I can't break this alone," she gasped. "It's too strong." "You're not alone," Dante said. "We're all here." Through the pack bond, Elena felt them, not just her 23 Cascade Ridge wolves, but all 312 assembled warriors. Every wolf who'd answered the call, who'd chosen to fight for freedom. "Everyone," she called out. "I need your strength, your courage, your belief that we can win. Give it to me. Now." And they did. Power flooded through the pack bonds, not magical power but something deeper. Determination. The collective strength of 312 wolves who refused to accept defeat. Elena channeled it all, gathered that massive surge of pack energy, and drove it into the ward like a battering ram. The barrier didn't shatter, it exploded. The blast knocked everyone off their feet. When Elena's vision cleared, the entire front of the installation lay open, wards destroyed, walls crumbling. Now! Dante roared. Everyone now! 312 wolves charged through the breach. What followed was the largest battle in modern supernatural history. Hunters and wolves clashing in a chaos that defied description. Silver bullets flew. Magic crackled. Blood soaked the ground. But the wolves had numbers, motivation, and Elena. She ran through the battlefield, protected by her pack mates, heading for the holding facilities. River guided her through the complex. They knew the layout, knew where the captives would be. The holding cells were underground just like the other facilities. But there were so many. Row after row of reinforced doors, each containing a bound and tortured wolf. I can't break them all individually, Elena said, looking at the seemingly endless hallway. It would take hours. Then don't break them individually, Sophie said. She'd followed Elena down, refusing to stay behind. You broke them all at once in the last facility. You can do it again. That nearly killed me. Not nearly. You survived. And you're stronger now. Sophie gripped her shoulders. Elena, you have 300 wolves up there, fighting and dying to buy you time. Don't waste it. Do what only you can do. Free them all. Elena closed her eyes, reaching out with her Moonsinger senses. She could feel every captive wolf, every binding, every chain of dark magic. 200 wolves, all suffering, all waiting. She thought about River, freed from captivity. About the woman who'd been bound for 5 years. About all the rescued wolves who'd rebuilt their lives after trauma. About the life she wanted to build with Dante and her pack. About a world where wolves didn't have to live in fear. Elena opened herself completely, not just to her own power, but to the moon's blessing, to the ancient magic that made Moonsingers what they were. She felt it answer, pouring into her like liquid silver, filling her until she thought she might burst. Everyone get back, she whispered. Sophie grabbed River and ran. Elena released everything. Silver light exploded through the entire installation, not just the holding cells but the whole complex. Every ward shattered. Every binding broke. Every chain of hunter magic dissolved like smoke. 200 captive wolves, all freed in a single devastating moment. Elena collapsed, but hands caught her before she hit the ground. Dante, his wolf form shifting back to human, cradling her. Did it work? She managed. It worked. His voice was filled with awe. God's Elena. It worked. They're all free. Above them the battle shifted decisively. 200 newly freed wolves, angry and terrified and filled with rage, turned on their captors. Combined with the 312 attacking wolves, the hunters were completely overwhelmed. The hunter organization's leadership tried to flee, but Vincent's team had sealed all the exits. Celeste's wolves captured the hunter who'd threatened them outside the council chambers. May's specialists secured all the evidence, documents, records, proof of centuries of abuse. By noon it was over. The hunters surrendered unconditionally. Their facilities destroyed, their captives freed, their operations exposed to the entire supernatural world. They'd lost. The wolves had won. The casualty reports came in as they evacuated the rescued wolves. 37 wolves killed in the battle. 62 seriously injured. But 512 wolves, including the 200 rescued, survived. 512 wolves who would live to see tomorrow because they'd refused to accept the status quo. Elena sat in the back of a medical transport, too exhausted to move, watching as the installation burned behind them. Sophie had wrapped her in blankets and was forcing her to drink some restorative tea, but Elena barely tasted it. They'd won. Actually won. The council is calling an emergency session, Dante said, checking his phone. They want all 4 alphas to attend immediately. Tell them to wait, Celeste said firmly. We have wounded to tend to, rescued wolves to settle, dead to mourn. The council can wait for once. Agreed, Vincent said. We'll meet with them tomorrow. On our terms. That night, as they established temporary camps for all the displaced wolves, as healers worked frantically to save the injured, as pack members mourned their fallen, Elena finally let herself feel it. They'd actually done it. Changed the world. Ended a war that had raged for centuries. And somehow, impossibly, she was still alive. Hey, River said, sitting down beside her. They looked battered but whole, with a light in their eyes that Elena hadn't seen before. I wanted to thank you. Not just for today but for everything. For showing me that freedom was possible. That we didn't have to accept what was done to us. You would have found your way eventually, Elena said. Maybe. But you lit the path. River smiled. Whatever comes next, council meetings, rebuilding, figuring out how to integrate 500 wolves into normal pack life, I'm here. We're all here. You gave us back our lives. The least we can do is help you figure out what to do with all these wolves you've freed. Elena laughed despite her exhaustion. That is going to be a logistical nightmare, isn't it? The best kind of nightmare. As the sun set on the day of the final battle, as the moon began to rise, Elena stood among her people, her pack, her allies, her rescued wolves who were becoming friends and family. They'd won the war. But the real work was just beginning. Building a world where wolves could live freely without fear. Where Moonsingers weren't hunted but celebrated. Where the council served the people instead of protecting ancient power structures. It would take time. Years probably. There would be setbacks and challenges and moments when it seemed impossible. But looking at the 512 wolves gathered around campfires, sharing stories and healing together, Elena knew it was possible. They'd already done the impossible once. They could do it again. Epilogue. 6 months later, Elena stood on the balcony of the new council chambers, rebuilt after the old guard had been forced to resign in disgrace. Below, representatives from every pack in North America gathered for the first fully democratic supernatural assembly. So much had changed. The hunter organization had been dismantled, its leaders tried and imprisoned, its treaties nullified. New laws protected supernatural creatures from exploitation and abuse. The rescued wolves had been integrated into packs across the country, with counseling and support to help them heal. And Elena had become something she'd never expected. Not just a Moonsinger but a leader. The first elected representative for wolf rights, tasked with ensuring that the abuses of the past could never happen again. You look nervous, Dante said, joining her on the balcony. He wore formal attire, a suit that made him look uncomfortable but undeniably handsome. I'm terrified, Elena admitted. What if I mess this up? What if I can't live up to what everyone expects? Then you'll learn and try again. That's all any of us can do. He took her hand, his thumb brushing over the mate mark on her wrist, the intertwined wolf and crescent moon that had appeared 3 months ago when they'd finally completed their mating ceremony. Besides, you won't be alone. You have your pack, your allies, and me. Always me. Always, Elena agreed, leaning into him. Below, she could see familiar faces in the crowd. Sophie and Quinn now officially mated themselves. Marcus and Claire expecting their first child. Arya, who'd been accepted into an elite training program for young wolves. River, who'd become an advocate for rescued wolves, helping others heal from their trauma. Celeste, Vincent, and May, the 3 alphas who'd risked everything to support her. They'd become true friends over the past months, their alliance stronger than ever. And scattered throughout the crowd, dozens of wolves who'd been rescued from hunter facilities. Some had joined packs. Others had formed new communities. All were free, healing, building lives they'd never thought possible. It's almost time, Dante said softly. Your speech. Elena took a deep breath. She'd written and rewritten it a dozen times, trying to find the right words to express everything she felt. But in the end, the words came from her heart. She stepped up to the podium and the assembly fell silent. 6 months ago, she began, her voice carrying across the gathered wolves, we fought a war. Not because we wanted to, but because we had no choice. Because our people were suffering and those in power chose to look away. She paused, gathering her thoughts. We won that war. We freed our captive brothers and sisters. We dismantled an organization that had preyed on us for centuries. We forced change that many said was impossible. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the crowd. But winning the war was the easy part. Building something better, that's the real challenge. Creating a society where every wolf has a voice, where power serves the people instead of controlling them, where we protect each other instead of abandoning the vulnerable. Elena looked at the faces below, young and old from every pack and region, all united in hope for a better future. I'm just one wolf. I can't create that world alone. But together, she gestured at the assembly, together we can build something extraordinary. A society based on compassion instead of domination. On freedom instead of control. On hope instead of fear. The crowd erupted in howls of approval. So I stand before you today not as a Moonsinger or a hero, but as a wolf who believes in what we can achieve together. Who believes that every voice matters. Who believes that change is possible when we refuse to accept injustice. Elena felt tears streaming down her face, but she didn't care. To those we lost in the battle, we honor you by building the world you fought for. To those we rescued, We promise you'll never go back to those dark places. To those who doubt we can succeed, watch us. Because we're just getting started. The howling intensified, 300 wolves unified in purpose and hope. And as Elena stepped down from the podium, as Dante wrapped his arms around her, as her pack and allies surrounded her with love and support, she felt it. The pull of the moon, that constant hum she'd spent so many years fearing. But it didn't feel like a burden anymore. It felt like home. 1 year later, Elena Cross, now Elena Blackwood, officially mated to Dante, stood in the same clearing where she'd first shifted. The Cascade Ridge pack had grown to over 200 wolves, making it one of the largest packs in the Pacific Northwest. The new cabins stretched through the forest, a thriving community of wolves who'd found sanctuary and family. Training grounds where young wolves learned to control their shifts. Healing centers where trauma survivors received counseling and support. Schools where children learned about their heritage without fear or shame. And at the center of it all, a memorial garden. 207 names carved in stone, wolves who'd died in captivity, and the 37 who'd fallen in the final battle. Elena touched the memorial stone, feeling the weight of their sacrifice. They'd be proud of you, Sophie said softly, joining her. Of what you've built. What we've built, Elena corrected. All of us together. True. Sophie smiled. Have you told Dante yet? Told him what? About the baby. Elena's hand flew to her stomach. How did you? I'm a healer. I can sense these things. Sophie's smile widened. Besides, you've been glowing more than usual. And I don't mean your Moonsinger abilities. Baby. Elena and Dante's child. The first pup born to their pack in years. I was going to tell him tonight, Elena admitted. After the anniversary ceremony. That evening, as the pack gathered to commemorate the anniversary of the final battle, as they honored the fallen and celebrated the rescued, as 500 wolves across the country joined in solidarity, Elena felt the future unfold before her. A future where her child would grow up free. Where Moonsingers were celebrated, not hunted. Where wolves lived openly without fear. They changed the world. And they were just getting started. As the ceremony ended, as the pack began to disperse, Dante found her by the memorial garden. You've been quiet tonight, he said, pulling her close. Just thinking. Elena looked up at the full moon, her 4th year as a wolf, and it still took her breath away. About everything we've accomplished. About what comes next. And what does come next? This. She took his hand and placed it on her stomach. This comes next. It took him a moment to understand. When he did, his eyes went wide, then filled with tears. Really? Really? Dante lifted her off her feet, spinning her around as laughter and tears mingled together. When he finally set her down, he cupped her face gently. I love you, he said. I love you so much. I love you too. Always. They stood together under the moon, pack bond thrumming with joy as news spread telepathically through their wolves. In the distance, celebration howls began to rise. Elena Cross, the girl who'd spent 23 years running from her wolf, had finally found where she belonged. In a pack. With a mate. Building a future where freedom wasn't a dream but a reality. The moonlight glowed silver on her skin and Elena welcomed it. This was who she was meant to be. And the story was far from over. The end.